You a baby? I guess 95 wouldn't be a baby anymore.
How do Apple users go back? There's no way for me to click back to what I was doing before. Ugh. Me and Apple products just don't mesh.
I'm about to be 30. Oh, your 30s are great. Congrats.
Okay, so record. Hello, everybody. What does this say?
Everybody.
What's my own comment? Oh, I forgot. I was going to do a different banner. Cynthia. All right, I guess I should check in with her, see if she's having issues. Oh, this fail. Taking a breath. Hi, everybody. Hello. Hello, everybody. Tink. I love that name. I call my friend Ashley Tink. She's my little Tinkerbell. Okay, so we are starting a new episode. I'm just going to check. Oh, there she is. Hi. Okay. Over here, we're good there. Okay. Add to stream.
I don't know what I did.
I had to add you. Can you hear me?
Me too. I can't hear anything on my side. I'm trying to adjust my settings. I can see that I'm talking and then it's picking me up talking.
You have headphones on.
Let
me see.
For some reason, I'm not hearing anything.
I can't chat with her. I wish there was like a little chat box. Can you hear? I can't hear you yet. But wait, hold on. Am I actually being my computer? No. You can hear me. Okay. Our last person had this issue when it was like the headphone problems. Do you want to sign out and sign back in? Because we still can't hear you.
Ooh.
Let me try that one.
Oh,
yep.
there it is.
Yay!
Yay.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Okay, let me give you a grand entrance.
Okay.
You can start. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Okay, this is Melissa.
Melissa, nice to see you.
Did I move this? Something better. Keep your little beak shut. Okay. Excuse my bare feet. All right, are we ready? Are we rolling everywhere?
We're ready, yes.
Okay. Alrighty, welcome to Keeping It Weird.
Welcome.
You made it to another episode. And we have a wonderful guest today. She's very special to my heart. She's a therapist here in California, a licensed family therapist. She's very neurodivergent informed because she's neurodivergent herself. And she hung out with me for a whole week at the ADHD conference last year, and we instantly became besties. And now she's my sister from another mister, Ms. Cynthia Valentine.
Hello.
Welcome. It's so good to have you.
Oh, thank you. It's so good to see you, and it's so good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So you, nobody asked you, Seppi. So do you exclusively see neurodivergent clients, or is that just kind of a specialty of yours?
It's a specialty. So I don't exclusively, but it's a pretty large chunk of my caseload. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're licensed just in California?
No, I'm licensed in Hawaii and Michigan also, so I see clients online from those states.
Oh,
Um,
wonderful.
yeah.
Hawaii and Michigan. Random.
So
I
I
like it.
have a lot of like time zone coordination
Yeah.
going on because everyone's all over. But it's kind of fun, and people move. And during the pandemic, I had an unusual amount of people that were going to Hawaii. So lucky, love that for them. And so I looked into getting licensed in that state, and because California is very special, there's LMFT exam for California, and then there's one for every other state. And so I had to take the every other state one. And so as soon as I took it, I was like, oh, well, now I can get licensed everywhere. But yeah, so.
Awesome. Cool. That's cool. Okay, so you wanted to talk about IFS, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I don't remember, because this is a very big blind spot for me, because I personally, I went to therapy for years and would just like talk about my ADHD symptoms because I didn't know I had ADHD. And then once I got my diagnosis, I was like, oh, well, what was I doing in therapy? Because that's the only thing I was, so since my diagnosis, I have not like gone back and been like, oh, what's great about therapy for neurodivergent people, because I kind of went backwards with the whole thing. So yeah, I'd love to hear about this mode that that you think has been really helpful.
Yeah. So an IFS is internal family systems, but I'm very open to talk about just how ADHDers can use therapy, right? Because I think that's a major barrier, and we think we're going to get something out of therapy when we don't, right? Like, I'm going for this reason, and maybe we say that, right? Because I've had clients very similar to you. I've been with therapy for years, and then they come and see me and we talk about ADHD. They go on their ADHD deep dive of what they need for themselves. They resolve a lot of those things, and the resolve is mostly, oh my gosh, the validation can be so healing.
That's normal for ADHD, and I'm not actually, lazy or spoiled or have all these character flaws, right?
Yeah. Well, and even the use of that word normal, right? So I'm in San Diego, and we have a street called Normal. And so whenever I was exclusively seeing San Diegans in person, I'd be like, Normal's a street, right? It's in Hillcrest. Like, that's what it is. So we don't play with it that much.
Yeah, what does it mean? Yeah.
Right? And so normal compared to what? I say that a lot. Well, it needs to be like this. Well, I should be doing this. I should be like, well, compared to what?
Yeah. It implies a right and a wrong.
Yeah. And so very quickly, people start acknowledging and accepting and nurturing this brain that they've had their whole life, that other people have invalidated, sometimes unintentionally, oftentimes unintentionally. I can almost guarantee any therapist that you talk to who inadvertently harmed somebody with ADHD has deep regret over it.
Yeah.
That's probably, I guess I should say that's probably true. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're still in the camp of like, well, I don't know. They're an adult, like it's ADHD, but more often than not, especially these last like 5 to 10 years, when I talk to other clinicians and other therapists that know and believe and acknowledge their ADHD clients, they're like, they either refer out because their brains, I just don't know how to support them. Thank you for referring out, right? We love that.
Know your limits. Yeah, that's great.
Your limits. And also, or the ones that really put a lot of effort into understanding, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the validation can be just kind of lift like this, I don't know. It's like wearing, that sunburn feeling? You're just wearing a sunburn. they can just like, oh, I don't have a sunburn anymore. Like, oh, I'm just here in my skin, right? It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
So anyways, I was going to say, like, with the IFS stuff, with internal family systems, we'll definitely get into that, but I also want to be as much of a resource to you just as I'm on the inside, right? In therapy land.
Yeah. And here's the thing, and this is
questions on the inside.
It's a difficult topic with neurodivergence is that I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just from the education I got getting my degree, it was clear to me that they don't really train therapists to identify when something is neurological versus just a problematic thinking pattern. You know, there's a difference between self-sabotage and having a neurological disorder where your brain is wired differently. And so there's two different lines of thinking that I see. And one is just people who don't know anything and think that all mental afflictions the answer is therapy. You go to see a psychotherapist. And that was me. And that was why I was in therapy so much, because I thought, I'm having mental issues. I need to see a therapist. But it turns out that, my therapists weren't trained in identifying neurological problems. And so they were just treating everything like it was a problematic thinking pattern. And then there's the other line of thinking of like, well, ADHD is a medical issue, and so don't go to therapy. But there's really something in between here where you should be going to therapy to help cope with being in a world that was made for neurotypicals, without necessarily the expectation that your symptoms are going to get better, but your self-image gets better. The way you handle the adversity is better and smoother.
Yeah. There's, I'm trying to, was there a question there? But
no. I was just saying that this has been a blind spot for me because there tends
is it a neurological or not in the training?
Yeah, and we don't often talk about, because there aren't many neurodivergent informed therapists who offer, hey, I know I'm not going to fix your symptoms. Let me help you cope with being neurodivergent.
Right.
And I think that's why you are incredibly valuable right now, and why your narratives probably aren't heard very often.
Sure. Yes, that's definitely true. And it's hard. I think so. There's a very human element here, wanting to have the answer. And for people, and I've talked to a lot of therapists, a lot of teachers about this, because they get to this master's level or this, a doctorate level in education. They're really good at being good at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so hearing that they're not good at stuff hurts. So talk about like self-regulation. Like how does your therapist have their self-regulation? Like how are you dealing with failure? How are you truly, because that's what it is. It's a skill. Need that skill acquisition of how to tease out and how to acknowledge, oh, I don't have a strength there. Is that bad? Do I have to use the word failure? No. Right? Okay, I have a skill. This is not a strength for me. I need to go to somebody else. But I've just found that that's a really hard place for like accomplished people to acknowledge.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. It's not just in therapy land. It's anyone who hasn't experienced that level of like, almost like the non-skaters. Like I'm not a skater, but like I've known enough skaters, like they fail all the time, right? They try again and again and again and again and again. Like, right? And it's okay.
And a musician, yeah.
Yeah. But for people with education, that's not happening.
Right. Yeah, so, you're great. You're like directly proportionate to your efforts.
Yeah. So it's very, so I think there's some of that, and people don't want to be self-reflective, right? As much as we push self-reflection and self-awareness, it's hard. Like even with online therapy, I can't tell. It was so funny for me to watch, and I feel bad saying this, sort of, not really though. When we all had to go online in 2020, some of us, I had online experience working with people online. It's a different skill set, right? Totally different. You have to really prompt people to pay attention to what their body is doing, because I need to know, because now I can't see you. So tell me what you're feeling. Is your foot jiggling? What are you doing over there? Tell me what's happening. Because if you're not aware and you can't voice it to me, then I won't know and I can't help. But what happened when we all went online is it's like therapists' brains broke, and we were all dealing with this pandemic. We were all stuck at home. We just wanted to be helpful, and everyone was looking for us to help, and we were all on fire too. And we were like, ah. But what happened is you had to adapt, right? You had to. Like, how do I develop this online skill set to be able to ask people how they're feeling and be patient while they figure that out? I don't know. Well, what are you doing right now? Right? Well, I'm fidgeting. Well, I'm this. Well, I don't want to be here. Perfect. Let's start there.
Yeah.
I love that.
And the thing is, I feel like
so it's skill acquisition for a lot of people, and being okay that your skill set isn't fully developed. And
and the thing is, like, I think that especially right now, because of social media, we have so much self-inflicted pressure to be perfect, and we forget that we start out in this world completely ignorant and not being able to learn things until we make mistakes. We have to try things in order to learn things and grow. And so if you don't go out of your comfort zone, if you don't ever do something that you know you're not good at, that you don't know that you're good at, you won't learn. You'll stay in the same place all the time. And is that somebody you want to be? Probably not. But we have this idea, and I talk about this with ADHD and mental illness in general, and disorders in general, and disabilities in general, where if you really are triggered by someone pointing out that you have a gap in your knowledge, you're ignorant about something, or that that you have a disability, or that you have a mental disorder, if you're triggered by those things and they offend you, that's probably because your idea of those things is a flaw instead of a struggle. Because flaws are things that we have to work on, and things that are bad about us we have to change, right? But struggles are things that we need to accommodate and understand. And they're inherent. They're not something that you're doing bad, and it's not a character flaw. So just like having a disability and having a mental disorder, there's nothing that's not insulting. Like, to say you have ADHD is not rude. It's my struggle. Thanks for acknowledging my struggle. Acknowledging that your ignorance is really just, it's a struggle. It's something that I have to, educate myself on. And there's things I have to deal with. I have to be more aware of when I have gaps in knowledge that aren't feeding, my purposes. So I found that with age too. Like, when people say you're old, I'm like, why does that hurt? Why is old inherently an insult
in our culture?
Yeah.
Right.
There are some places where old is
Right.
not.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly my point. It's like, if you're really triggered by something like that is not inherently a bad thing, like it's not a comment on your character, well, then maybe you just need to change your perspective about how you feel about that thing.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, like, developmentally, ADHD kids hear negative comments on such a massive scale compared to neurotypical kids. Right. And so
Do you remember that statistic that we saw? I think it was from Dr. Dodson's talk, wasn't it?
it was probably, it's something like, honestly, here, I don't know. Here's my ADHD 2.0 book, and I just
it was something crazy. It was something like they hear 20,000,
like 20,000 to 30,000 times more negative comments. And so if we move into adulthood, talk about asking for help becoming impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible. And so, you know, whenever I get a new client, very, very quickly, regardless of diagnosis, like, where are you now? And can we be okay? What would it take for us to be okay with that?
Yeah.
Right? And there's usually a lot of grief attached to being okay with where people are. Well, that means I have to acknowledge that these people failed me. Right? And so now how do you be with that part of yourself that really needs nurturance, really needs acknowledgement and validation and accommodation a lot of times, right? Like, oh my gosh, you need 10 more minutes? Perfect. Let's do 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Or maybe you just need to only be around neurodivergent people.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And is that okay? What is it going to take for you to be okay with that? Because sometimes that self-judgment that shows up, well, what does that say about me? And we have to acknowledge those voices sometimes. Well, my mom said this. Well, dad said this. Well, this one teacher was super, you know. So we have to acknowledge those and kind of, you know, help fix that relationship to that part of you that got established in second grade. How do we repair that dialogue? Because if I'm being driven by a second grade teacher that's yelled at me, you know, and I'm 38, 39, 40, 45 years old, how is that helping me today? How's that serving me today?
Yeah.
And it's not that part or that voice or wanting to believe the teacher, that part that really wanted to believe the teacher knew everything, right? I'm a second grader, like, I'm going to believe the teacher. They're the smart person in the room. I'm going to be a good kid. Believe the teacher. Do what they say.
Yeah. And then constantly being accused of someone who doesn't have good intentions and has a bad attitude, when really it's quite the opposite.
Yeah. Or you're lazy. So many ADHD people here are lazy, or they don't care.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us bring that into adulthood with the whole overachievement complex, or the constant trying to prove yourself. And that's how people get burned out. You're masking heavily. You're trying to, you know, prove that image wrong.
Yeah.
And it's too much.
Yeah. And I've found that, like, one of the biggest breakthroughs in being an ADHD coach was just changing the framing in your mind of, like, why didn't I do that? And, like, if you forget something, oh man, why can't I just keep this room clean? Well, legitimately answer that. How about it's because your room isn't arranged in a way that's conducive to your habits? Instead of expecting yourself to constantly setting your expectations the same every time and constantly expecting yourself to meet them and then being let down, how about change your expectations to something that you can actually accomplish? And that's just about getting more aware of where your limits are. And if you're afraid of limits because it makes you feel like you're broken or incompetent or whatever, that's where the problem is. And I think the biggest help that I've found as just an individual learning to love myself was acknowledging that I'm imperfect and embracing my imperfectness. Because then it's like, then I don't allow other people to insist on perfection for me. Then it's like, hey, I make mistakes once in a while. Is that okay? Like, I'm sorry that I hurt you, and I'm willing to make up for it. But can we just, is it okay that I'm gonna do these things once in a while? I need room to, fumble around and mess up a little bit. And then I can advocate for myself and forgive myself. Because I do have a disorder. I do have a disability. Doesn't mean I have to stop trying. It doesn't mean I can't be accountable for the times that I hurt people or impose upon them. But I have to be realistic about what my abilities are and not expect perfection all the time. So, anyway.
Yeah. We started on IFS.
Yeah, I don't know what IFS is.
Is
So
it
I'm
internal?
riffing.
Oh, it's internal family systems. You said that already.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know
I
what
went
that
to
is.
a therapist once. I believe this was before I was diagnosed, but she wanted to do internal family systems, but she also really, really, really wanted me to do EMDR, and
With trauma?
which is totally like a valid modality. I know people who it's worked for, whatever, but for me, I was like, I don't really want to do it. Like, maybe sometime, but like not now. She was so like every session, she would be like peer pressuring me to do the EMDR, so I stopped seeing her. So I don't have too much experience with IFS therapy, but
Well, EMDR is for specific like PTSD, right? Was that something that was getting in the way of your progress? Was
no, and that's
this
the
big
thing
traumatic event?
that's the thing that confused me, because she was asking me questions sort of like related to what the EMDR sessions would be. So she was like, you have to sort of, it's where you like go to a certain traumatic event in your mind while we're doing this thing, whatever she was going to do. And I was telling her, it's hard when you have complex PTSD, because there aren't like singular events. I mean, there are a few, but you know what I mean? Like, most of my trauma just comes from like a sporadic array of events, right, throughout my life. And I'm like, I feel like it's hard. Like, I don't really need EMDR because I can't pinpoint like a one thing.
Event.
There's like years worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel like it was the right fit for me. But anyway, that was kind of a little tangent. She
Yeah,
really wanted me to do it, and I was just like,
And it sounds like
I had an agenda.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those people who like has the one thing that they do, and so that it's that everything they do is through that one filter.
Yeah.
Like I had a doctor who like everything was about mindfulness, and I was like, can we
Yes.
have other strategies, please?
Mindfulness is great. Just like EMDR is great, but like there's not like one magic
There's
pill
not
for
one
everyone.
cure for
So,
everything.
anyway,
I hear that story a lot of, I didn't do what my therapist wanted, and so I stopped going to them.
yeah.
Like, what a failure. Like, on the therapist part. Nobody wants to hear that. Oh, they were just like, yeah, I failed as a therapist. I have not done a good enough job with people, and they have stopped seeing me because of it. I'm very aware now of how I can serve people and where people are now. And that's a skill that I've had to develop. So when people tell me no, guess what? We follow it, right? Yeah. And it's really unfortunate. I'm so sorry that was your experience with that therapist, because it doesn't reflect well on the industry, right? On like helping professionals in general. Like, well, I want a therapist who's going to work with me and not work at me, right?
Yes.
Like just like with coaches, right? Like, I want someone who's going to work with me, not work at me. Like, well, you have to do this list of things, and like that's it. And like, well, that's not coaching, right? That's not therapy either. And it really is like plug in and insert this, and then you get this. And I think a lot of times even therapists will like kind of fall back on that. Well, if you do this, then this will be the result. And so if you didn't get that result, then you did it wrong. That is horrifying when that happens, when a therapist will say that, because they're not skilled in their personal self-reflection of like, I missed something here. And so when I work with people, I'm very, very clear, I think, when I'm saying, hey, so this is what I'm asking you to do. What's coming up? Is there any part of you that's being resistant? Is there any part that's like, I don't know about this, Cynthia? Like, this sounds like garbage, but we'll go for it anyways, right? Like, I want to hear that part, right? So
because that's where the change is. That's what I tell my clients. If you didn't do your homework for this week, that's not a failure. Things are working exactly as they're supposed to. Now we have an indicator of where things are going wrong. Now we look at why you didn't do it, and now we have information about where the blockage is.
Well, and we have an indication of who's chiming in, right? So with internal family systems, there's like the capital S self, right? So Cynthia is running the show, but sometimes 15-year-old Cynthia shows up and she doesn't want to do anything, and she doesn't want to listen to you, and that's just what it is. And so I need to be really aware when that part of me is trying to run the show, because she needs different attention. That part of me needs different attention. Why are you showing up here? Well, they're taking away my agency by telling me what to do, right? This is after really knowing who I am, so I can use that word agency. 15-year-old self didn't know agency, but right? She didn't know that word. But they're telling me what to do. I don't like it. Well, you want to be able to do it on your own? Yeah. Well, you realize you can't drive yet? Like, you're only 15. I know, but I still want to be able to do it on my own. Okay, well, how do we make, like, what do we need to do? And we do have to, but that's internal family systems. How do I connect with that part of me that's trying to run the show? That, unfortunately, my 15-year-old self doesn't know as much as my 40-year-old self, right? But guess who knows her really well? Right? This one. And so for clients, you know yourself really well. Like, we all know ourselves much better than we give ourselves credit for. So much better. And so that's internal family systems. How do I connect with that part and help her? Right? And so with ADHD, what I'm really helping my ADHD clients with is that emotional allowance, right? How do we allow your emotions without flipping the table? How do we allow your emotions without hurting somebody, without hurting yourself? How do we acknowledge and allow them? Because I don't know about you, but I know how to watch a movie without punching somebody in the face. But I can still have the feeling of wanting to do that because of whatever they did on the screen, right? Or I can still have the feeling and the emotional experience of gratitude or happiness or joy or suspense, right? By watching it on the screen. So I don't know. I think we can have emotions without that instant, like, you know, action.
Yeah.
But how do we do that in real life, right? And so if there isn't some understanding within about where those emotions are coming from, well, what grinded her? What, like, ground her gears? Like, what, like, bummed her out? Like, what made her so mad? What made that part of me so reactive? We need to look at that. And so that's internal family systems, and it's really healing that relationship. So if my 25-year-old self, right, became very, I don't know, what's a way we can talk about it, like militant, or like, you must do it this way, or like, this is how you have to behave, and like kind of controlling of maybe a feeling that I was having. And now at like 30, that's not working anymore, but I'm just going to try harder. That part of me that's like, no, you have to try, like, do it this way or else. Ooh, I need to really get into relationship with that part that's trying to, like, kind of manhandle me and like throw me around and control me, because things have changed. And so if we don't update, you know, the 9-year-old, the 15-year-old, the 20-year-old, like, if I don't update those parts of me, like, I think back, my 9-year-old self, her mind would be blown with what my world looks like these days. Blown, right? Like, my 9-year-old self wanted a library that looked like the Beast library, right? And while I don't have like a ladder on my shelves yet, oh man, I'm working toward it.
That's a dream of mine, and I don't even read books.
Right? And so it's just one of those things, like, how do I acknowledge that part of me and have that patience and kindness and respect that maybe she didn't get the right combination of at the time? Right? So is that making sense? Like,
it sounds honestly
a little bit of what internal family systems is?
It's kind of sounding like looking at everyone as if they have dissociative identity disorder.
So that's a really common misconception. I'm so glad you brought that up. A lot of people think that it's like, oh, so you have DID, and like,
no, I'm saying it's the approach, not that you have it, but that the approach is similar, where you're looking at the different parts of you that are active and triggered at the time, and what informed that, and what part of your life informed that response.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and so the idea behind it is that there is multiplicity within us, right? Like we do have maybe a higher self, right? Or we do have a part that really cares about cleaning and it needs to be a certain way. Or we do have a part that, gets really sensitive to noise, or if I get, like, for me, if I get hungry, like I made sure I ate before this, right? But if I get hungry, my patience is gone. It's absolutely gone. And so I have to be really aware of that, really self-aware of like, well, I need to kind of prepare. I'm not hungry now, but it's been a couple of hours, right? Like the piece of chocolate isn't going to do it as much as like that piece of chocolate sounds good. We'll get that later. So I just, it's coming. We'll do a little more preparing for it. So there is just that acknowledgement, because, anyone who's seen the movie Inside Out or Inside Out 2, it can, many people relate, right?
Yeah.
You watch it. There is, it's funny because now that you're saying this, the first therapist I ever truly saw, who I loved, and she moved out of the area, and so I wasn't able to see her anymore because she doesn't do online stuff. So I was really bummed. But I feel like this is what we were doing. She just I didn't know the name of it, because she would always say we were working through a lot of like my childhood stuff and past stuff with my parents and stuff. And we would always talk about little Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
Or teenage Melissa, like, oh, what would you say to teenage Melissa? Or what is teenage Melissa saying to you in that moment? So I feel like that's kind of like what it is, right? Looking at where this specific thought or feeling or behavior, like what part of your life is that stemming from?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It absolutely can be that. And there's a lot of different modalities that use parts work or parts language, right? And so, a lot of times we'll hear about, like therapists will talk about, oh, the inner critic, my inner critic is saying this, right? And so that's another use of parts language. So there's,
yeah. And I think there's a lot of, for the internalized ableism for neurodivergent people, I think is a huge chunk of that. It's when we find, like you were saying, oh, this person, the part of me that feels so strict about having everything clean. That sounds to me, just on the surface, not being you, it sounds to me like the pressures that you felt by society to conform to what's best and what's right, and correct behavior, without you having the knowledge of your disability to take that into account, and not having anyone to show you how a disability applies in those situations, and that you have exceptions. It's the part of you that just assumes that you're also held to those expectations because no one's ever told you otherwise.
Yeah.
So, and now we're older and we're diagnosed and we know what the disorder is, that person can come in and be like, hey, time out. When we had these expectations for our life, that's when we thought that we had the same abilities as the majority of the population. Turns out we have these other abilities and these other struggles that keep us from that being a realistic expectation.
Yeah. So one of the big saying in IFS and internal family system is no bad parts. So there's a book by the same name, but there's no bad parts. So even when we have, if I have a client who's struggling with addiction, that part's just trying to protect you from those feelings, right? It's a pretty extreme protection, right? Like, oh, I'm blacking out, or I'm, doing drugs or something. Like, it's pretty extreme protection from a feeling, but okay. Yeah. But how do we relate in a kind way?
It's a desperate feeling. I mean, withdrawal sucks. I mean, I've never been through withdrawal, but I've heard about it, and it sounds pretty freaking horrible.
Yeah, and so, but manhandling that part, right? Or forcing it to do something only goes so far for most people, right? With real addiction, with real struggle behind that. So it's important to get into a relationship.
I think that part of the problem there is that I had a discussion in one of my classes about forgiveness and what it means for people and why people have a hard time with forgiveness. And I think that we boiled it down to mostly the fact that most people associate forgiveness with agreement. Like they think that when you forgive someone, you're condoning their actions and saying that's okay, you can keep doing that. When that's not really what it is at all. It's that it's an acknowledgement of, I understand why you did it and where you were when you did it. And it's a human experience. And obviously, you hope that they don't keep doing the same things. Otherwise we distance ourselves from them. But the same with ourselves. Like, you can forgive yourself for something without condoning it. You can forgive yourself for having an addiction without coddling yourself. You can say that, I was protecting myself from these feelings without saying, and it's okay to keep doing that. The two are not the same.
No, and forgiveness also doesn't mean second chances, right? I think sometimes people go, oh, you forgave me, so now let's keep hanging out, or let's plan another thing. No, right? And I don't personally believe that everyone needs to be forgiven.
And also, forgiveness, I feel like, is more for you than the other person.
Yeah.
If you believe that.
Closure and resolve. Yeah.
Right?
Like, if I feel better.
Yeah, if I believe that forgiveness is going to free me, it's probably going to free me, right? But if I believe that forgiveness is just a construct that doesn't resonate with me, go with that. So I think it's really, because the other thing about forgiveness, there's a lot of religious and spiritual backing to it too. And the amount of people with religious trauma that I work with, forgiveness is a tricky one. So, because it's so loaded, it's such a loaded term for so many people. So with forgiveness, when I used to work in a rehab, and I used to work with clients who would really beat themselves up, well, I was so messed up, and I was doing this, and I caused all this harm in my family, and so I deserve punishment. They fully believed I deserve punishment for doing this. Okay, perfect. That's fine. What kind of punishment? Are you going to actually punish yourself, or are you going to try to rehabilitate yourself? Because the system that you're in isn't going to try to rehabilitate you. You're just a number, right? We all, that's pretty standard. Our, systems are kind of, you're a number. So we're not going to rely on them. But for you, are you going to rehabilitate? What's it going to take for you to say, okay, you're doing a good job. I believe that you're recovering, and that you're repairing, and that you're rebuilding your life. And I believe through your actions that you're actually doing that. What's that going to take? What's that rehabilitation going to take? So I do think it's important to kind of differentiate. Well, what's the action here?
And what is what good is the action doing? Because if you're going to sit there and punish yourself because you deserve it, okay, that's a nice ideology.
And we have to look at where that belief came from, right? And and I've been I would have clients that would tell me, I've been forgiven 100 times, it doesn't work. Okay, well then we need to figure out something that does work. So
what is serving you and what's effective?
Yeah, even if I forgive myself, okay, yeah, I went to church that one time and forgave myself, but now I still kept doing the same things. All right, well, we got to figure it out. You know what I mean? People really, because we get, and it's not for lack of belief or for lack of conviction. Every addict and alcoholic I've ever worked with, there's no doubt in my mind that they want to get sober, that they want to do better, that they never want to go back to what they were doing. There's no doubt in my mind every time they make those promises. But the support and the skill development is so much different than what they've been provided in their life, right? So going back to those kids that were just figured out. Oh God. right? Or like, you just need to, like, here's the rules, like, just follow the steps. Well, I don't have, I need like an A through F on step 1, and I don't know how to do that on my own, right? And so going back and really helping people acknowledge that, and there's almost like a reteaching or relearning or a reparenting for yourself that needs to happen. I think needs to happen for a lot of people, and especially for ADHDers, like this acknowledgement, oh, you're here, great. Where do you want to go? What have you tried? Let's see how we can fill in, some spaces that maybe you needed a little different support, right? Maybe the support, like the intention was wonderful, right? All these people really cared about you, but they just had a major blind spot in how to support you.
Yeah.
Right? Which I think is more often true. Unfortunately, it becomes hard to say my teacher wasn't enough. My parent wasn't enough. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a harsh way to say it.
Their best. But both things can be true.
Both things can be true. And I'm not a huge fan of sugarcoating things. Like, I want to, offer kind of a softer explanation sometimes, but sometimes other people's best is not going to be good enough for me. Sometimes my best isn't going to be good enough for somebody, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, oh, all right, I need some extra support. I need like a helicopter to fly in at this time, and I need like ground troops to come in over here, and I need an extraction team just in case I freak out. Like, okay, this is, you know what I mean? Like sometimes we need like prep, and that's not a bad thing. That's okay. But if we have a belief that it is a bad thing, that I need extra supports, that I need extra time on something, then it becomes a really, that's really hard. And that self-defeating kind of internal dialogue.
Yeah.
I
think it is helpful going back to, and I did a lot of this after my diagnosis, just processing the grief of the diagnosis, revisiting the little girl in me who was, as you said, let down by her, the people she looked up to, because now I can go back as an adult who knows better, and I can go, shame on them for not recognizing I was struggling. I understand that they didn't have the education that I do and don't have the information that I do. And I forgive them for that, but they still should have recognized that I was struggling instead of villainizing me. And, but it's easy for me to, it's a lot easier for us, I think, to forgive our child selves, because we see it's very easy for us to forgive children, because children don't know yet. They're just figuring out the world, and the name of the game is to make mistakes in order to learn the world. And so I think that our attitudes toward them tend to be less ableist. So it's good to start there, and then that can help you kind of approach the other parts of your life with that same kind of attitude, that same kind of, I didn't know this is what was going on, here's where I am now, and how I can retroactively kind of inform that. Yeah. And heal the way I look at the world.
Yeah, and really offer some patience, right? A lot of patience to yourself. And oh my gosh, we were operating without all the data, right? But this was the best we could do with the data that we had and the skills that we had at the time. Great. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so, and even for, like, I always think about this. Like, I don't know if you've ever worked with teens. Have you worked with teenagers?
I haven't, no.
No? You have a teenager?
I have a teenager.
Yeah. And they're like, how old is your teenager? Do you mind me asking?
She's 15.
Right? So 15-year-olds are developmentally perfect. And that's a hard thing, I think, for people to think about sometimes, because we may have a different expectation of what they should be like, how they should be behaving. Well, they know better, right? I love working with teenagers because I think sometimes I'm the first person that treats them like they're absolutely perfect at the way they are, right? And it's so much fun, right? And I think, I love that millennials are parenting now because we usually get it that like, oh, we need to be like understanding. We need to have a little bit more patience. We need to be, like acknowledge that I don't know what their experience is, and maybe they need some more autonomy, even though they're technically a child. Like you're a child still, you're 15, right? So really giving that kind of permission to yourself as a parent and your kid, I think is, I don't know. I admire the parents. You guys are doing a great job. Like I've had so many parents that had like 16 or 17-year-olds, who are just on the cusp of like, really, they just want out or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you're still responsible for this child. You're still responsible. And this person wants nothing to do with you. But your 17-year-old is developmentally perfect. Your 19-year-old, oh my gosh, I think of when I was 19. What a nightmare. But she was developmentally perfect, right? Just knowing everything, not needing anybody's help, apologizing at 21 for being, I'm so sorry I was 19. I'm so sorry about
Right.
that.
I love that. I really love that way of framing it and looking at it. I do that. I find myself doing that with both of my kids. My older kid is 27 and still does things that baffle me sometimes. And I think about myself in my late 20s and I'm like, yeah, like this is right. Yeah, you just have to remind yourself like, oh yeah, I didn't. And both my kids are doing just as well as, if not better. My 15-year-old's like doing way better than I was at 15, and I'm just like, well, she's doing great as far as I'm concerned. But like, I've also always kind of tried to approach my kids more like they're a peer, and I don't mean a peer as in like a friend, because I feel like that's problematic when you're a parent and you're like, oh, but I'm your buddy and we're BFFs. Like you can say you're friends with your kids or whatever, but like there still has to be the parent-child dynamic. But treating them like a peer, I mean like an equal. Like you're an equal in this household. Yeah. You have a say. Your opinions matter. Your feelings matter. Like, because in my household, I was not treated like a peer. It was a very different time. And a very different way of parenting back then, where it's like, we're the parents, you're the kid, as long as you're under this roof.
Because I said so.
Because I said so, and a lot of us are like messed up because of that kind of parenting. And I want my kids, like, I'm not a perfect parent by any stretch, but I try so hard to make my kids feel safe and feel seen and feel important.
But that is a perfect parent. Because human beings aren't perfect.
They're not.
Human beings are intentionally imperfect. That's how we get along. It's built in us in order for us to learn and survive. Dogs stop learning at a much earlier time than we do. We keep learning. We are imperfect beings in an imperfect world. So to expect perfection is silly. Yeah. So to be the good things that matter, to be attentive, to be loving, to be kind, to own your shit when you're wrong, that's all perfect.
Right. I think being a good parent, being able to say, I'm a good mom who's made mistakes, because I have. I've definitely made mistakes. I've definitely had moments where I still look back and I'm like, oh, I dropped the ball on that, or I should have said it this way, or I shouldn't have done that thing for sure. Or times when I parented differently, or I tried to mimic my own parent style sometimes, where I'm like, well, that didn't work out. So yeah, I mean,
but it's redundant though, because every mom is like that. So to be a mom is to have made mistakes.
It's true.
It's totally expected.
We're all just doing our best. And damn, being a parent is hard. Do you have kids?
No.
You have fur babies.
I have fur babies, yeah.
Being a fur baby parent is also hard. I also have lots of fur babies, but it's hard in a different way. But yeah, being a parent's hard. Being a neurodivergent parent is hard, and oftentimes, like both my kids are also neurodivergent, which can sometimes work out really well for us and sometimes not, being the same way.
Yeah. And that there's a book called Constructive Wallowing. I forget the author, but if you take away the W, it's constructive allowing, right? And when we have constructive allowing, it's very, it can be, it's, mindfulness based approach of just where are you now, right? Very much, let's play with some awareness. Where are you now? What are you feeling? What's happening? And usually, so it's so funny, I don't know if in your studies right now they're telling you not to do this, but actually asking clients how they feel is kind of important. And so it's not a bad thing. Well, how do you feel? Right? We kind of need to know. There's more skillful ways to ask it than just repeating that over and over, but we kind of need to know. And with constructive allowing, how do I do this in a safe way? How do I do this in a respectful way, in a kind way, right? And we have to choose the words correctly, right? And so we might need to play with some of the words, because even as I was saying respect, I'm like, that might have some baggage for people. So you have to find the words. Well, what's a kind way, right? And kind doesn't always mean permissive or walk all over me, right?
Yeah.
But kind can be patient, persistent, curious, interested.
It can just mean a lack of insulting or being condescending.
Yeah.
And I think you touched on something that I think is really helpful too, and that is acknowledging where you need to reword something just because of your own associations with it that are problematic. I get that, you see, messiness as laziness. So let's change the word. Okay, the word procrastination. I hate the word procrastination. I don't use it because to me it implies apathy. And I know that everybody I know who procrastinates, we all give a very big shit. We have no apathy. We really want to get the thing done, but are paralyzed. So, but there's other people who don't have that connotation with they don't have that association with the word procrastination, so it's fine for them to use it. But for me, it puts me in a very ableist headspace. So whatever you have to do that helps you get to where you need to be is fine.
Yeah. No, and you prefer task dread, right?
Yeah, I like task dread because it is a real paralyzing feeling of just I would rather burn alive than do this thing.
Right. And it's, task dread there's such an emotional component to it, right? And there's a book, I'm a huge reader, so I can, almost anything I say, I can reference a book to. I'm like, I read this on that. But there's a book called Solving the Procrastination Puzzle, and it's really good. It took me a while to read it because, of course, I put it off, which is hilarious. But it only took 2 hours to read. But it's really emotional avoidance. That's procrastination, right? And task dread is acknowledging, I don't want to have this feeling. This task is going to give me a bad feeling. Task dread. That's what that is, right? And so, when people come to me, it's not always for, there's often we'll do kind of a spiel on executive functioning and helping people understand what those are. I really like the book, The Smart But Scattered Guide to Success. I like the way she talks about executive functions. I like how she, there's a little quiz in there. I just feel like it's a very simple, straightforward way to understanding executive functioning and some general guidelines on how to, skill up in those executive functions. So I'll work with people on that, but more often than not, the emotional dysregulation is what people struggle with the most when it comes to ADHD, right? No, I know how to organize my day. I know how to show up somewhere on time, or I know how to do this, but it's going to cost me this. And I hate that. And so we have to deal with the hate. We have to deal with because that's self-hate, right? That's self-judgment.
Yeah.
Well, I'm impatient with myself. I can't believe I can't just do this, right? That self-talk is so so negative and so harmful and doesn't help the situation. So where did that come from? Why are you here? What does that part of me need at this time that like I'm dreading this so much, right? I don't want to do this, right? What supports do I need? And how can I have some just real understanding that for me to get something done, it's going to look so different than what other people maybe do to get something done, right?
Yeah.
So that self-understanding, that self-acceptance, that self-allowance, the permission, I'm like, I can't tell you, like even for myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're an adult. We can do whatever we want. That's amazing. Like I just forget sometimes.
I had chocolate pie for breakfast.
Oh my God, amazing. Yeah, that's so great. And so it's, you just like, I'll remind people that I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a grown ass adult. What do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? Right? Like, what do you want to do with this? Like, how would you prefer to do this? Well, I always wanted to do it this way. Oh my gosh, do it. Right?
Yeah, who's stopping you? What are these rules that you've been following your whole life?
That's what we need to unravel a little bit, right? Because those rules that got kind of knitted into our like consciousness and psyche, like that got knitted in, like, well, I have to do it this way. Well, why? I don't know. Well, because this person said so when I was like 11. Or when I was 5, I saw someone get in trouble for this. Oh, do you still operate on that? Like, I don't know why, right? And so we do just have to kind of unravel that a little bit or a lot. And what do I want to do instead?
Yeah.
Have to be really patient with, is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. I want to do it like that now, right? Like, and then being really gentle and permissive and, just non-judgmental and
the non-judgment part.
Excited about it. Like, no, I'm allowed to live my life how I want. That's a trip. Like, that is a trip sometimes. It's like, oh my gosh, do what I want. That's awesome. That's so awesome. I remind my teens like that whenever I work with teenagers. I'm like, hang in there, man. Like, adulthood is so rad. You get to do whatever you want. You get to like, it's, trust me, just hang in there.
Of course, I don't have kids. So I want to do whatever I want.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and it's, so it's just, really back to that permission.
I think the lack of judgment is so important because once you remove that, you can see more clearly where the blockage is. It's just like in a conflict, right? Like you're not going to listen to someone until you feel heard. Just like you're not going to admit to what's actually going wrong until you take the judgment out of it. Because there's too much at stake. Like we were talking about therapists being defensive and not wanting to acknowledge that they have a blind spot in their knowledge because there's so much self-judgment around that. But if you remove the self-judgment, there's no stakes and there's nothing keeping you from looking inward and identifying it. And then you can actually tackle it. You can't tackle something that you're not willing to even acknowledge.
Well, and with IFS, with no bad parts, there's no bad self-judgment. Well, what function is self-judgment trying to do? Well, it's trying to help me do a good job, right? It's trying really hard to help me do a good job by, like, if I judge myself in this way, then that means I'm going to stay in line and I'm going to do it like this, right? Oh my gosh, self-judgment. I got to update you. I got to tell you, I have like such big news. What if you didn't have to do that? Right? What are you afraid is going to happen if you don't self-judge me? If you don't judge me that hard, what are you afraid is going to happen? Well, then obviously you're going to
become a bad person. You want to be a bad person?
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to blow your mind right now, judgment. Like, we're going to be okay. I can take care of us in a way that all the people before that we've interacted with that kind of fed you and like said, keep judging her and keep her in line like this. All those people, it's not that they were wrong or, some of them might've been, probably were, but right now I can take care of us in the best way. Let me show you. Is it okay if I show you? Do you mind just kind of stepping aside and just like lounging? Do you mind just like hanging out over here? And so it's very internal, like that permission within yourself. Can you step aside and I can just talk to this part of me that you're protecting me from? I can help her too. I can help that part too. Is that okay? And so it's really so like diligent and step by step, like no judgment. You're not doing anything bad. I get it. You're trying to keep me safe. You want me to keep my job. You want me to keep this relationship. You want me, sure, okay. But this part of me that you're protecting me from, I know how to help her too.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I do that? Do you mind stepping aside? And so when we have those parts of us trust us, that internal trust, we build that internal confidence, that part relaxes. Like I love that scene in Inside Out too, where anxiety is like has the tea and is in the couch, and you should watch it. It's great.
I really want to, yeah.
I went and saw it by myself, which was great. I'm just kind of glad, but it's, yeah, you should watch it. It's really good. They're the founder of IFS, Richard Schwartz, he consulted on the movies. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Awesome.
But it's just like, how do I help you? I want to help. Well, you're not helpful. Well, how old do you think I am? Right. Sometimes the judgment parts of me, how old do you think I am? I mean, you're like, you act
At
like
some point we are ready to be an adult. Yeah.
So it's really about, again, getting into relationship with those parts of us and asking them, do you mind if I do this? Is that okay? Can I try? Can I show you?
I really like that part of it, particularly. I love the, can we just try it? Because that's the only way to know for sure if it's gonna work.
And within therapy land, right? So within IFS therapy land, whenever that happens and the part's like, no. Okay, well, what would it take for you to let me try without you coming in so hot and judging me? What would it take? Well, I would need to see this, and this, and this, and this, and this. So we have to kind of be very careful of not to just steamroll over and say, well, I asked.
Yeah. Well, what's at stake? What's the worst case scenario? What's at stake here? What could go so terribly wrong?
Yeah, what are you
going to lose our life?
Yeah. So it's very so validating. So just very gentle and pretty powerful acknowledgments that have probably taken a long time to get there, right? Like they've been in operation for a long time. They're pretty ingrained, but also that judgment part, probably pretty tired, could use a break. Girl, let me give you a break. Do you mind? So it's really just about, building that, sometimes the friendship, but it's really just like a working relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's active. Part of the reason that I really like the can we try it thing is that for people who have a ton of anxiety that, paralyzes them, if you give the promise of we can go back and do it the other way if this doesn't work out right, if you hate it, if it's wrong, whatever, it gives them a little more permission to do the thing because we can still go back.
The stakes are lower.
It lowers the stakes. It gives a safety net. And so if the anxiety is so high, agreeing to try something, it can be easier than just do it. So right. I like that. That's neat.
Yeah. And often at that point too, well, that didn't work, but it kind of worked until this point. What if we try something else? So hopefully at that point, judgment has a taste of like the good life and like not judging so hard and not working 24/7. That judgment's like, I mean, yeah, if you want to try another thing, I guess that's okay. Right. So, yeah, totally. So I have your permission. That's cool. Like if I try another thing and like just keep working on it and you're not going to judge me super hard and be mean to me. Oh, okay, let's do that. Right. So, we're doing that too. Yeah. So but if that relationship isn't there and that patience and understanding isn't there, that dialogue won't happen and you'll be paralyzed, right? And so we have to kind of hang out there sometimes, kind of settle in, allow,
Yeah.
What's coming up? Where do you feel it? How do you feel towards that? Are you mad at it? Are you sad about it? Are you right? Like, we need to know. We need it. It's important for us to know. And one of my favorite places, as much as I know it's very uncomfortable for clients to be in, because I know I've had that experience, is when they say, I don't know. I'm like, perfect. That's where I come in.
Yeah, my clients, I kind of resolved in, when I was doing my coaching training, the thing that just was so maddening about my trainer was that every question she asked, the whole session was all questions, and it was all open-ended questions. And I have no working memory. So like, for me to just like come up with something is extremely difficult. So I've developed a tool of like, anytime I ask a client an open question, I'll start giving examples to help the wheels turn. Like,
Right.
what is it that's keeping you from putting the mail over there? Is it that the box is too far away? Is it because you don't like touching the envelopes? Is it because you have your bags in your hand at the time and it's too much? And I will just start listing them off, because now the wheels are turning, and now I'm getting ideas, and now I'm actually, instead of just being put on the spot and being like,
and there's that deafening silence where someone's waiting for you to answer, and you're like,
and then you're judging yourself for not having an answer.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's also the judgment of, I have to answer soon. Right. When, and
I do something they want to hear.
Right. And if soon is too soon, we need to give some more time. Right. And I see that processing, I see it happening up there. But it's just wheels spinning that haven't gotten traction yet. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, what's this part of you that's just like trying really hard, but like can't grip the ground? Whew. And like really getting back into their seat, into their body. All right, let's ask that part that's really trying so hard to provide this answer, because we're supposed to provide an answer because we were asked a question, and we know that we're supposed to give an answer when we're asked a question, and it has to be a good answer, and it has to be all right.
Break.
Yeah, let's, there's the other thing is, especially with IFS, with that no bad parts kind of as the umbrella and guidepost, there's no wrong answers either. Right? So I don't like doing the mail. It's just supposed to. Gross. Right? Like,
gives us something to work with.
Yeah. So, and I think that's another thing that, at least with my clients, I've seen and I've found to be very helpful. There's no wrong answers here. But like, actually, there's no wrong answers. Right?
Truly.
Because I think sometimes we've had helpers in our life that are like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with da 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 da, but they don't really mean it. Right? No, like, there is a right and a wrong. You're lying. You're absolutely lying to me. I'm like, actually, I have no skin in the game here. You're gonna log off our session and go do your life. I'm just here for you. So if you want to use me, I'm gonna be as useful as I can. But so yeah, there's actually nothing I'm gonna get mad about or be upset about. And so I have to really acknowledge and say those things out loud for my neurodivergent clients, because I know that's there. They're worried about, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to do a bad job. I don't want you to be mad at me. I'm never. And so it's a very healing experience for people when they finally have a helper that's not mad at them for getting back with their ex, right? For, calling in sick again to work, for not doing this, whatever the laundry list of self-judgments is.
Right.
Yeah. So it's can be very transformative, and it's one of the things I absolutely love about being a therapist is I can actually help people that are like me, that I know what they're going through, that I've been there myself, where I've had helpers miss the mark. And now I can help them, use the right helper to help them with their life. Yeah.
So, and that sounds a lot like the trust issue that we touched on a lot, and that is, you know, I talk about marketing and how manipulative marketing is now, and everyone's out for your money, and everywhere we go, there's ulterior motives from everyone. So it's when you get in the therapist's office, it's hard to wrap your head around the fact that they don't actually want a specific thing from me. No, they truly aren't judging you. There truly aren't any ulterior motives here. I think because we walk around in that defensive space so much all day,
Yeah.
and trying to, especially for autistic people, trying to read what's not being said, what's underneath, what's really going on here that's not just on the surface. It's hard to shed all of that mentality once you hit the therapist's office.
Well, and the
So
thing,
my
go ahead. Sorry, got excited.
So I guess my question to you is, how can we? Do you have any helpful advice for finding a good therapist and using them properly and getting us in that proper headspace and identifying, who might be right for us, who might not, and what to do about that?
Yeah. So I think for a lot of people with ADHD, it really being aware of what you need can be really hard, right? Like, well, what do I need help with? Is it the emotion regulation piece, or is it kind of task avoidance, task completion? Like, what do I need a lot of help with? And so there may be, this might be a disappointing answer. There may be some trial and trial again, in order to figure out like what you need, how you need it, what's going to work, what isn't. The thing is, I think, at least with me, like it's really easy for me to say, like, I think you need this. I think you need this instead. Right. And so, and I would love to say I know how to figure that out with therapists, and like how to ask a therapist, like, are you okay being wrong? Like, and so if anything, I don't know, like, I'm okay with when clients ask me very blunt questions. I love it. I'm so glad they ask, and I really validate it. But I've just seen the responses that I know people have gotten those responses from therapists where it's like, oh, wow, that's a lot. Oh, yeah. So disappointing, right? And so we're going to try again, right? We're going to try again. And so if anything, I just encourage people to be persistent, do the consultation call, right? So if someone offers a consultation call, if you're doing it online, ask for a video consultation, see how you feel, right?
Yeah.
Phone consultation can be really useful, but why not do a video consultation? Like, I don't know, but that's me. I'm very comfortable doing that, and I don't know, like when people call me or we talk about therapy, they're usually shopping around, which I think is good. I'm so glad people do that, and they talk to different therapists and call and consult with different ones. I always tell them, like, you don't owe me a phone call after this. I know you're talking to other therapists, but you don't need a phone call. Like, your whole job is to take care of yourself. And so if that's continuing and working with me, let's keep taking care of you, and we'll get you document signed, we'll get you logged, all that stuff. But if you're taking care of yourself, looks like going with another therapist, please do that. And, I don't know if it's as much these days or not, but sometimes people get very like kind of stuck on their schedule. Well, just let me know, because I'll be holding the spot for you. No, you're not the one. No. So, I think doing the consultation call, making sure that they have some experience with an ADHD brain, right, with neurodivergent brains. The other thing is sometimes the expertise that you need isn't necessarily in ADHD, but it might be in trauma or child abuse or, sexual assault or something. So it might be in something else. With that, what is their understanding? If they can't voice it,
yeah,
I would have a hard time trusting they can practice it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Everything that we experience is through a neurodivergent lens. And so someone who doesn't know how to tackle something like that with a neurodivergent mindset behind it is another thing. Yeah. So even if it's not ADHD, but you still have an ADHD brain. So,
Right.
so being informed.
And like I have an IFS consultant that I work with, and I've been working with her for like a year, maybe longer now. And she asked me recently, we understand going off on tangents, right? And like forgetting where you left, right? So when I'm not in my therapist role, my tangents are just expert level. And so she asked me in the kindest way, like the best way possible, how do I redirect you without being rude? But she didn't say that. She said, so I want to make sure I ask this. Like the way she said it was so kind and so respectful, and no wrong answers. She was just
no judgment.
I don't know how. I can't even tell you how she asked it, but she was like, basically, what do I do when you go off and we need to get back to the topic, right?
Right.
She didn't say it that way. I need to figure.
But what she was really asking was, what mode of communication do you prefer in those instances when you need to be called out for something?
And for me, I was like, just say, where are you going? Just tell me where you're going. Because then I'll remember where I was. Oh, yeah, we're talking about this, and that had nothing to do with it. So that was I'm like, just ask me where you're going. Because then I'll remember, oh, yeah, we're not talking about that. But
yeah, I think any therapist who gets defensive is not good. I would not, I don't think that there's any room in therapy for ego. I think anybody who gets offended and defensive about and triggered about anything, that's not part of your job. So if you recognize that happening, that's because you don't have a good therapist. It's not because
they're not the therapist you need. Like some people want to go walk into therapy and they want the therapist to know them better than they know themselves. And some therapists are like, I can do that. I know who you are and how you are and what you need. Like, you know what I mean? And maybe that's useful to them. I don't need to talk to that person.
Yeah.
I like to know who you are because I might get a referral that like someone who wants someone just tell them what to do and is the expert in their own life. Okay. I don't understand that. I don't think that's very common. I do think there's some modalities that the therapist is the expert and they're treated as the expert. But I don't think that's as common as we think. I think sometimes people unfortunately just fall into that role because they're not curious, because they're not asking more questions, right? And one of the things with all the training that I've done is just, how do I stay curious? How do I stay present? How do I stay with you, right? And so it's something I'm really proud of, just as I've learned in therapy, of just how to be curious and how to be like good with people.
Yeah. I love the strategy of always being curious because it's active. It always leads to action. It leads to investigation and questions and new perspectives. So there's also the idea of like, I used to get frustrated with therapists because everyone I saw was just a listener and would go, that's really tough. Oh yeah, that's awful. And I'm like, can we change something? Can you give me a worksheet? Can we play a game that's going to help me have new perspective? Like, can we do something here?
Right.
But I know that there are some people who do just need a safe space to, vent and be heard and be acknowledged.
But that needs to be established right away. Like I have a couple of clients who really want to be heard. They need to be heard. They absolutely need the validation. They need that permission to say what they're saying and to have their emotional experience validated and allowed. But that's established, right? That's established early in therapy or in the immediacy of that session. What are we doing today? What's top of mind? What's, is this where we left off last week or 2 weeks ago or a month ago? Like what's happened since then? Do you need to do, and I won't say all of those things, but I'll, pick a lane and say, do we need to do a recap? Is there something that's top of mind that's really pressing that we need to absolutely get to today? Do you want me to bring us back to a topic, but you don't want to tackle it right away? So I can, put that in the back of my brain so you can talk about what you need to. And then I can say, hey, we have about 20 minutes left. Do we want to get to this other thing? So, but that's, the therapist needs to direct it, I think, right? At least the container, right? Like what kind of container, what kind of structure do we need for our session today? We can always change it, right? But like
direct it based on what the client needs. Yeah.
Right. So what kind of structure do we need today? I don't know. Perfect. Where are you?
Want to see her cry for an hour.
Yeah, I think it's important to ask because, for one, different people have different needs across the board, but sometimes every session you might have a different need. You're the same person, but maybe one session you're like, I just need to vent. The next one you're like, I really want to process this thing, and if you have feedback or whatever, like there's different days, different situations. Yeah. So therapists don't do that. They don't take the time to ask, and they don't take the initiative to kind of direct the session either.
Yeah. And it's, it's one of those things where, again, I'm really proud of myself that I do that for clients and say, where are we now? What do we need? This is where, and I do that recap because that can be hard to remember. Why did I come here in the first place? Why am I talking to you? Oh, you're talking to me because of this. This is what she said in that phone call, and then this is what we said last week. And then, you know what I mean? And so acting as that working memory, acting as that, like, oh, remember, like, this was hard. And this is the pattern of behavior that you're trying to see what we can do something different about. What do you want to pay attention to? Yeah.
That also lets you know that your therapist really knows you and listens to you, because my therapist, who I see right now, is very good at that. She'll be like, so 2 sessions ago, we talked about this thing, and you said this, and I've been wanting to kind of explore that more, if you're open to that. And I'm like, what do you? She not only remembered what I said, when I said it, she wants to talk about it more. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. We should talk about that more. So it's like, it's validating to the client too, because I know I've seen not a lot of different therapists. I can count them on one hand, but there's definitely a couple. The one I'm with now and the first one I ever saw that were above the rest, and the others were kind of like in-betweeners where I was trying, but some of them it was like, I don't know if this person even like really remembers what I said, or
but you feel like they have to start over every week.
Or I'm like, do you know what do you remember? Like, where I felt like I was directing the session.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, remember when we talked about this thing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and so sometimes that can be people's style, right? But hopefully they know enough to be able to tell you, I'm going to let you drive. I'm not going to do a lot of directing. But if they don't say that, and you're just showing up like, I don't know what to talk about today. Like, I had coffee at like 7 instead of 7:30. Like, what do you want to know? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, it's important to have that trust that they can help drive if you need it, and sit in the passenger seat when you need that.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I know a lot of us get overwhelmed when we have too many options, and I'm somebody who goes on Psychology Today for every therapist that I'm thinking about, and will like filter for specialties and find exactly what kind of specialties I'm looking for. Are there any, first of all, is that a good place to look? Are there other places to look? I'm trying to help people mitigate the whole like sifting through hundreds of therapists until they find the right one. Like ideally, there's some sort of filtering that happens before you do the consult. Otherwise, we'd have hundreds of consults with random therapists. Do you have any advice for like things to look for, like red flags or green flags, or places to look?
So keeping your expectations kind of manageable, it's going to be a bit of a slog at first. So I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how they are going to fix that. I don't know how the directories are going to fix that. So Psychology Today, Mental Health Match, Therapy Den, Theravive, Zen, I think it's called Zen Therapy or something. I don't know. Like all these directories, they're going to try to give you as many filters as you can to find the person that's the best for you. Sometimes that'll work, and other times I would encourage just searching online. The Online Therapist California ADHD, right? Just picking out those long tail keywords to try to find the therapist for you. Going to a bunch of different websites. There's going to be quite a bunch. There's going to be some filtering that needs to happen, and I speak that from my own experience. Like I've looked for therapists for friends, and it's like a second job. Like I'll spend like 15 hours, 20 hours in a week looking for therapists, emailing those therapists, emailing back. I looked for a therapist for a friend on the East Coast once, and I think I emailed like 13 different therapists after filtering, right? Mm-hmm. And I think I got 9 emails back. So I didn't even get emails back from everybody.
I'm impressed by that. I think it's usually like 30% personally.
But I was coming, like, I think I knew how to kind of put my questions in there, like, hey, I'm emailing you on behalf of a friend. I'm a therapist in California, da da da. So I did have a bit of that, like, answer me because I might be referring people, you know what I mean?
Incredible voice, yeah.
Some networking opportunity for you here, like, pay attention. But that helps, right? Giving a brief kind of description, like, hey, I looked at your website. I like that you did this, this, and this. Knowing what you want, if you need insurance, if they actually take your insurance, right? If you can private pay, knowing what their private pay is, right? So it's going to be a bit of a part-time job if you want to get a therapist. Unfortunately, I don't know the way around that. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I think that's, if you want to get a therapist, like, talk to your friends who they're seeing. Maybe you can see about emailing their therapist. Hey, so-and-so I know sees you. I need some help finding someone. They might get back to you. Right? It's a big job. It's a big job finding a therapist. It's a big job finding someone that's right for you. And all the therapists that I've looked for people, it's a second job until we land on them, until you get those phone calls kind of set up. And I don't know. I wish I had a better answer, but there's no silver bullet here.
I think the important part of that is just that it's not that therapy doesn't work or that therapists don't work, or that therapists are incompetent. It's that you haven't found the right one yet, and it's really difficult to find the right one. It takes a lot of sifting through and a lot of trial and error. And I'll be honest, the way I found my therapist was I did the filters, and then one of them had purple hair, and I was like, start with you, because even if you're not ADHD informed, you probably relate to me a lot more than the other ones.
Yeah, so it's, there's, keep going. If anyone who's searching for a therapist is having a hard time, please keep going. There's a therapist out there. They just might be on like the 10th or 11th page. And I that doesn't, I know what it's like to get discouraged by that. I do. I definitely know. Looking, even and then if you get into like in person and like what area and how far can I drive and all that, it's challenging. There's going to be a therapist. Are they going to be perfect? I don't know. Like when I was looking for a therapist over the last couple of years, I wanted an IFS therapist. And the one I ended up choosing wasn't, level 3 trained, certified, all the bullshit that you like, oh, they're the expert and they've been doing this forever and all this stuff.
Read on paper.
I called that person and she was like, oh, I'm full. But I have my associate, right, who's not licensed, but working underneath their license, but she was level 1 trained, right? I'm not level 1 trained. I start it next month, right? I'm IFS informed, right? That's how I like legally have to say it. So I've done all the trainings you can do without getting into like the final boss training. But so even though she wasn't technically licensed, right? I've been licensed years. Do I want to see someone who's unlicensed? Well, I don't know. Let me call her. Let me talk to her, right? Because she knows more than me about this. So I need to talk to someone. For me, that was good enough for me. And she's been amazing, right? Because she's in consultation with the final boss therapist, with the level 3 trained person every single week, because that's what the license requires. And so I do feel like I'm getting the best of both worlds, like a very fresh eyes and also just a wealth of experience in the consultation that I know she's getting every week by law. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think opening up like what's going to be helpful and useful to you, well, they need to know more than me. Well, almost any therapist is going to know more than me about like how to help me because I'm clouded in feelings, right? So they can help.
They're on the outside,
They can help a little bit, right? But I've had, success with that too. So if you go to someone, if you call someone and they're like, hey, I do recommend this, or I'm supervising this person, talk with them. It's, I've been a newbie therapist before, operating under somebody else's license, and I tried really hard to do a good job. And so
that's one of the best therapists I have.
Try really, really hard to do a good job for you. So,
and I come from an unregulated industry, coaching, and I can tell you that. So I'm writing a book. It's an ADHD handbook of just like from all the way from finding a practitioner to through your meds journey. And unfortunately, listen, I wish it weren't this way, but the unfortunate reality is at least half of a good practitioner is in their personality. There's people look at certifications as like the end all be all, but that's not. Like, you can have the certifications and have gotten a C in everything, didn't really care and just memorized stuff. You could just be there for the money and for the accolades and not because you care. You could be a real egotistical asshole. You could interrupt people because you think that your opinion is much more important than their experience. So there's just so many. But then on the other end of that, you can have people like me who have like hardly anything on paper to show, but know all of the stuff more than most experts because we're just so damn curious and care so much that we spend all of our time looking into it and practicing it and getting that experience. So keep that in mind, folks. That's why I went with the girl with the purple hair, because I know people who are like this were like this. They get me. So, whatever that is for you, go with it.
Yeah. So but Therapy Den, especially like that directory listing, they have some good filters on there, where you can kind of, they're trying. Like, the directory listings are trying. They really do want to reach as many people as possible, and they want you to get help. They want you to use their search engine and for it to be effective and useful. But it might be a little bit of a slog. And it's, I don't know, like, it's okay to ask for help, right? Like, it's okay to ask someone, like, can you look, I hate writing, like, I know people who hate writing emails. And so let's come up with a template. Like, I do that with my clients a lot. Like, I need to send this email, but I don't know how. I'm like, do you want me to write it for you? I'm so good at that. Let me write it right now. And so I'll just write out a quick template of like, this is how you need to ask it, and I just, do that. And they're like, oh my God, it's written. I'm like,
yeah, ChatGPT does that for me now.
Yeah. Well, and like, even with ChatGPT, like, how do I prompt it? Like, people still get, people who haven't quite figured out how to prompt, like, So, but as soon as you learn how to prompt and how to do all those things, oh my God, so easy. But yeah, the writing and the written language of like asking people, how, I need help with this. Can you help me? I can talk this time. Is that okay? Right? Like, yeah, getting that information out in something out into the ether, I think I can help you too.
Don't give up, folks.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fun and enlightening, and I wonder, are you taking clients? And if so, where and how, and where do they find you, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so you just go to my website, letsbegintherapy.com, or you can search me, Cynthia Valentine Therapist, like I'll come up, all purple-haired glory, and then I'm online all over California, Hawaii, and Michigan. Okay. And then I am starting back in person on Wednesdays.
Okay. And that's in San Diego?
That's in San Diego. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And what are your like specialties? Do you handle like couple conflict or like families? I don't know.
So even though I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, I don't see couples anymore. Okay. There are people who love working with couples, and I want you to go to them.
Yeah.
And so I have referrals all over California for that too. Not in other states, but I mostly, people. Yeah. So I can send you to some great people who love working with couples, and I liked working with couples, and I was like, people deserve more than someone who likes, and it was really fun, but it's very draining. So I only see individuals in person, and online, neurodivergent, but the main issues being that self-regulation, anxiety, panic attack piece, and then like complex PTSD. So people recovering from like relational trauma and how like people pleasing, codependency, narcissistic abuse, things like that. So, yeah, the good stuff, right? Isn't that fun for everybody? No?
Those are cans of worms that I would like to open, but we're running over time.
Right. Yeah. Well, and grief. So it's really, the stuff that we don't like to touch, right? So, grief, narcissistic abuse, codependency, pleasing, those complex relational trauma, like, for whatever reason, and I don't look at it too hard, I'm good with that. Like I can make a very safe, respectful container for us to talk about that. Yeah, so that's who I work really well with folks that are struggling with those things who want different. Yeah.
That's great. That's exactly what I hear that people struggle with finding. So it's wonderful. All right, my friends. Well, she has my endorsement. If you are in California or Hawaii or Michigan, she's your gal. And I hope to see you at the ADHD conference.
I don't know. When does this come out? When does your podcast come out?
I don't know how far behind I am on the editing of the episodes, but maybe like 6 weeks or something.
Okay, so this year.
Yes.
I wasn't sure, because I know. Are you seeing, or is it just live once a month?
So we go live once a month, but we film 2 episodes. So we theoretically post every 2 weeks. But I've been behind, so it has been a little bit longer than 2 weeks for the last one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we were running low on recorded episodes anyway. So I don't know. Yeah, when I get to it, which will probably be 6 weeks-ish.
Yeah, we'll be there. Yeah.
I'll let you know.
I'm really hoping I can go. With the way my schedule has been working out, it's just going to be I want to go. It's like right there, an hour and a half from where I am. So I'm just like, I need to figure it out. But I had so much fun last year. I was so glad to meet you. Like, Melissa, do you know how we met?
No.
Yeah, it's a funny story. So I was in the airport in San Francisco, and I'm all nervous. I'm getting all RSD because I'm like, oh, it's a convention. Everybody's going to be so professional, and I'm going to stick out like sore thumbs because I've got pink hair, and I'm so dorky and weird. And then I'm getting my food, and the guy who's checking me out says, not checking me out, but helping me.
Bringing you
He goes, "Oh, is that your sister?" And I was like, "Sister?" And then I look around and I see Cynthia with the purple hair. He goes, "Yeah, her." And I go, "Oh, no, but I'm sure we're going to the same conference, aren't we?" And that was the moment where I realized, oh, these people are just like me. These aren't just like neurotypicals in a professional atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that was really how the whole conference was. It was like such a crazy healing environment because people were so forgiving and welcoming, and there was so much love and acceptance, and it was still professional and credible. Like, people were still really smart and had these amazing licenses and certifications and everything, but we were all still allowed to be ourselves, and it was amazing. Anyway.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So we hung out for a week. It was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was so fun, and like Courtney knows everybody, and I'm on my own. Like, people know you. Yeah, everyone knows you. So it was great for me to like attach myself to her a little bit, because then I got to meet all these great people. And I'm pretty introverted. Like, I'm not gonna go up to people. Like, it's hard for me to go. I went up to you in the airport because I was like, "Are you going?"
I'm so glad you did. I was so intimidated. I was like, "She's so pretty. She's gonna think I'm dumb. I'm not gonna go over there."
I love this story. This is like classic ADHD, and also like what a weird coincidence that happened. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
It was.
And
I was so.
I don't know
glad
if
that
you
it
were
happened.
part of this, but right before, no, maybe it wasn't before we went to Arturo's, but on one of the nights, everybody got done at the same time, and all of us simultaneously had RSD, and we all just felt like, oh, everybody's doing something without me, and they don't want me around, and nobody likes me, and I'm just gonna go to my hotel room and crawl in a hole. And then at some point, I think Ryan reached out to me and texted me and said he was having RSD, and I was like, "Oh my God, me too!" And then it was like everybody. Then we all connected with the whole group of friends, and everybody was all sitting in their room sulking from RSD simultaneously. It was like none of us resent or hate each other. We all love each other.
It's so real. That's a struggle.
Yeah. It was great. I and it's so funny. Like, I went to another therapy conference that fall. Much different vibe. Like,
oh, really?
Oh, so
like a regular.
I'm not gonna talk too much.
Like a regular, like it wasn't an ADHD conference.
No.
Yeah.
It was good, right? Like, good information, but different vibes, man. Like,
yeah.
I remember I felt like I was just myself once. At like, there was a book table and I was asking about this, and they were just like looking at me like, I just felt so judged because of the questions I was asking. Like, "Oh, has anyone read this?" And they were just like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, well, do you know about," like, they were offering nothing. You know what I mean? Like, "Well, what do you think?" And it was like, I'm glad I had the experience. I hated it. I hated everything about the experience, but I'm glad that I had it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is rough. Like, life is rough for us out here. And like, sure, they're going through, everyone's going through something. I get it. But like, man, my brain really, I have to really pep talk myself into like not literally flipping this fucking table because she was like rude to me about it. So, you know what I mean? Like, you suck right now. Like, how are you at therapy? You know what I mean? So like, yeah, but I remember just like that conference was so wonderful.
It really was.
So wonderful. They make such an amazing environment.
Yeah. And listen, anybody who is thinking about going wants to go. It's so healing. It's so healing. I cannot tell you.
Anaheim this year, like, go to Disney.
I'm going to Disney. That's part of the trip. We'll come on over.
Yeah.
We'll have fun. I'm telling you.
What day are you going to go to Disney? Maybe I'll come up and go to Disney with you.
Oh, yeah. Then you'll get to meet my bestie, Jenny. It'll be wonderful. You'll love her.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, it's so good to see you. And I'm so
Thanks
excited
for taking
to
the
see
time.
you.
I know we went over, but yeah.
It's okay. All right. Love you.
Good to meet you.
So nice to meet you. All right, take care. Bye.
Okay. I have to be real quick.
Okay.
Next up is some colors, of course. If you want to do a giveaway, we can. Hi, friends. Just a second. I gotta go pee. I'll be right back.
All right.
Sorry for the tinkle time out.
Oh, that's okay. I needed a bite of my bar anyway.
Okay.
I'm gonna chewing.
Floxy says, I hate when a therapist asks what I need because I don't know what I need. Right? That's why we're here. I was accepted into a 6-month leadership program at work and was the same with RSD in the beginning, but it was such a supportive and caring experience. So much lift up and encouragement. Oh, I love that. That's wonderful.
Oh my God. I'm going through that big time right now because I just started a new job a couple months ago. And I'm 100% convinced everyone there hates me, thinks I'm an idiot,
Yeah.
doesn't want me around. Like, everyone's been so nice. So nice. And I'm like, I go home and I'm like, oh my God, I was probably so annoying or stupid, or people are like, what's wrong with that girl?
So silly. It's all self-imposed.
It's very weird. I don't like it at all, and I just have to be like, you're being dumb. Just
I can be nice.
okay.
Okay, where are we here? It's episode 13.
Friends and followers.
Okay, we have friends and followers. Yay!
Okay. You want to go first?
Sure. My first one is really not neurodivergent related. Mine haven't been neurodivergent themed lately, but I think you'll like them anyway. First one is Sleepy Lizard Farms. This is a guy that I found on YouTube who has an avocado farm. And he also, I believe he also does mangoes, and he has more on his farm. But his main thing is avocados.
Does he have sleepy lizards?
That's a good question.
I wish he did.
I wonder what the names come from. But the reason I love this guy and the reason I'm recommending him is because he's hilarious, and the way he does his YouTube, I watch his YouTube videos because they're informational and I'm learning about like growing fruit trees and stuff and all about the different fruits and stuff. But the way he does his videos are really informational. He gives really good information that I don't find elsewhere, but he's hilarious and fun and does it in a very casual, ridiculous way. And it's not over the top. He's just a wacky guy, and he's just being himself. And
I love a wacky guy.
yeah, he just doesn't. You can tell he just doesn't feel the need to put on anything. He's not masking for social media. He's just being himself, which is hilarious and very approachable.
I love that.
Yeah, that's yours.
My first one, okay, it's not neurodivergent related, but a lot of people in the neurodivergent community love Harry Potter. But there have been some unfortunate things put out by J.K. Rowling that have really caused an uproar amongst the community of people. And I know I'm sorry, but I'm not a Harry Potter person, but my entire family is, and half of my family, one of my children and my partner are both trans. So obviously it's tricky because it's like, oh, it's so hard because they love Harry Potter, but the author is problematic, whatever. But so anyway, all of that to say, someone had recommended this podcast to me. It's called The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling. And full disclosure, I haven't finished the podcast yet. It's like a podcast series, so there's like a limited number of episodes. And I think I'm about halfway through. But the reason I decided to listen to it is because the woman who is interviewing her, because it's actually J.K. Rowling is in this series, amongst interviews with a bunch of other people, including trans people. The woman who is interviewing her, formerly, she grew up in the Westboro Baptist Church.
Whoa.
Yeah, she was born into it. Her family is like in it. Yeah. And she got out because she got she came to her senses. She had interactions with people who weren't in the church because she was like, okay, sorry, this might be a little bit of a long one because I kind of have to explain the reason why I like this podcast and why I'm recommending it. But she's like, the reason she got out of that situation is because she started having conversations with people who weren't in the church and started kind of seeing things differently and being like, oh, and now being on the other side of it, she has a very unique perspective of the people who are still in it. Some of those people are still in her family, because she's like, when I was in it, I wholeheartedly believed that I was doing the good thing,
of course,
by spreading these.
Of course. Yeah,
really
nobody believes they're the villain.
Nobody believes they're the villain. So she said she wanted to tackle this thing with J.K. Rowling because she doesn't believe in canceling people. She doesn't believe in not hearing. She's curious. She's like, what made you this way?
Yeah, she doesn't attack. She
wants to try and understand. And to me, I've been trying to adopt more of that line of thinking, as there's so much contention in our world, and so much, butting heads, and it's this way, it's that way, or that's right and that's wrong. And to me, it's so toxic to me when I start getting upset and angry and why is it this way, or why did they say that? And I think this is helping me. It's so far the podcast is very neutral. It's not taking her side. It's not demonizing her. It's telling the story. It's very logic, very fact based.
Relaying the events,
and but also diving into, and I haven't gotten really far enough into it to hear J.K. Rowling, to hear where all of this hatred of basically, it's mostly towards trans women, to be honest, that she's been, that's why she's called a TERF, and she's, because she's posted these things about like, oh, well, trans women aren't really women, and all of this stuff about gender and whatever, that's awful. But I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm like, where is this? I want to know, where is this coming from? What gave you this idea? Why did you decide to put it out there? Like, so being a very public person, like why, have a feeling, but why decide to share it when so many people are going to see it? Like all of these questions that I'm like, I'm curious. And if she's willing to talk about it.
And what happened in your life that makes you so passionate about this one thing? That's interesting.
And I'm curious. And if she's open to talk about it, I'm open to hear about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I know there are a lot of Harry Potter fans out there that might be interested to hear her talk about it, because a lot of the overlap between being trans and being neurodivergent is huge, and being queer and neurodivergent is huge. And also the overlap between being neurodivergent and being a Harry Potter fan is huge. It's like what's it called? The things, the Venn diagram.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a big
Yeah.
Venn diagram. It all overlaps.
Right.
So yeah, it's called The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling. I listen to it on Spotify. I don't know if you can find it anywhere else, but I'm pretty intrigued with it so far. Like I said, I'm only halfway through, but I'm like, this is good. I like that there's a conversation happening, and you never know. Just like this woman who was in the church got out of that way of thinking just by talking to people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if you never talk to people, like maybe J.K. Rowling will somehow get pulled out of her way of seeing things. You can't go into it with that hope, but like,
yeah, no, I think we all are responsible for hearing the other side and making. I think we're all responsible for making informed decisions, and it's okay to be passionate about something after you have all of the information. But if you're finding that there's gaps in your knowledge, it's your responsibility to fill those gaps.
Yeah.
And not attach your ego to an opinion, because opinions change based on new information.
Right.
But if your ego's at stake, you're not going to seek out that new information with the fear of like being wrong. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. There's nothing wrong with being ignorant. Just now you know that, and now you know how to handle it.
And you can feel passionate about something and still be curious about the other side.
Right.
So,
okay, here's a great example. Is a lot of us are really into understanding serial killers, and like we're passionate that killing is bad. We're passionate about not murdering.
We can agree.
Right.
Hopefully all of us can agree.
Yeah, but it is valuable and important to understand why people do those things and all the conditions around it, and getting behind what their perspectives are.
That doesn't mean you're condoning it,
No,
and that doesn't mean you think it's okay. Yeah, that's a very good parallel to draw. Like how many times I've listened to these like interviews with serial killers and found it so riveting and so interesting to hear about how they developed or into this person, or thought processes behind it. And it's the same with this. It's like, I want to know, like, I want to hear where she's coming from.
Yeah.
I'm not ever going to be like, oh, well, then in that case, it's okay that you hate trans women.
Right.
It's like,
oh, well, you can go ahead and murder people. I guess that's a good idea.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
No.
But I feel like I want to understand.
Right.
And I want to be like, well, that's where it came from. Doesn't make it make it okay. But
it can also help you prevent those things in the future. If you come out of it with the same perspective of, hey, that's wrong, well, now you have a better idea of how to prevent it, how to tackle it. It also reminds me of that guy. There was a guy that I saw some sort of segment on a while back who he was a black guy in the South who has a record of flipping KKK members. And the way he did it was not by like trying to convince them. It was just by befriending them. And with that, and they wouldn't even talk about race and stuff. They would just hang out and just talk about people stuff. And from them just seeing him be an equal human, it changed their perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't watch serial killer documentaries. I don't avoid them because I'm afraid it's going to turn me into a murderer.
Yeah.
So, why are you afraid to seek out things that you disagree with?
Yeah.
Anyway, great recommendation. That sounds really compelling and I want to listen to it. Is it audio only or is it video?
Audio.
Okay. My second one.
Your second one.
I'm going to change mine. I'm going to do first later. My second Friends and Followers is Homestead Rescue. I know, I'm on a big homestead thing. I'm sorry, I'm deep in the rabbit hole. But hey, homesteaders and off-grid people tend to be like us. Outside box thinkers, don't fit in a box for a neurotypical society, so we like to be out in the wild with being our own boss. It's a guy who's like, I think he's like 60 years old or something, and his two adult children, the Rainies, Marty Rainey and his kids, go. So these guys have been doing homesteading in Alaska their whole lives. And they go around and rescue homesteads that are failing. And again, just like the Alaskan Bush people, the way I found this was because I ended the Alaskan Bush people and I was like, what am I going to do now? And then this popped up and it's amazing and it's awesome. And these guys are also extremely entertaining and interesting. And it's also informational because you get to see how things work. And the amount of like MacGyvering, if you're not familiar with that term, it's like backwoods engineering. It's like finding scraps to engineer tools and things that you need, and like using mechanical engineering with just like a coat hanger and a rubber band, that kind of stuff. They're constantly solving these huge problems using like recycled materials and whatever's just laying around, and it's really cool and inspiring. And Marty and his two kids are pretty hilarious. They're serious hard workers and they mean business, but they are also fun and like to dick around and give each other a hard time, and it's a great show.
Okay, my second one is someone who I actually interviewed on my other podcast, which is called Oh, That's Just My Autism. Little plug there. Her name is Dr. Christina Stai. It's Stai, and that's her name on Instagram. Dr.Christina.Stai. And I had her on my podcast because she offers assessments. And we had a real good chat about the assessment process and also the DSM. She's very knowledgeable about all things neurodivergence and sort of sees the flaws within the current diagnostic system. And she's a really good person to follow online. She's always posting little tidbits.
She does assessments for autism or ADHD or both?
Both. Yeah.
Doctor. So she's a psychologist?
Yes.
Okay.
She is here, it's on her, because I don't want to get it wrong. I don't know the difference.
Actually, I already buy. I'd like to look her up.
Dr. Christina Stai, PsyD, psychologist.
Oh, a PsyD, okay.
Yeah. And she's young and she's cute. Not that matters, but like we like a young lady doing big things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Girl power.
Do you know where she's licensed? What state?
I don't know. I'm sure she said it on my episode, but I don't remember.
Okay. All right. So that is that. Next segment. Whoa, we have a new segment. Oh wait, let me just get on the comments here. Curiosity was one of the topics of the presentation I just gave. So yeah, what did you say about it? I'm curious.
I would all need more curiosity.
I'm very familiar with that term. What term? I don't remember what the term is. Oh, MacGyvering. Yes, my dad prides himself in. He is MacGyver, he says. So that's how I know it. That was low battery. Let's just run it out, shall we?
Okay.
Okay. Share the live. Oh, share the live. Oh, thank you for sharing, Green Bean. Appreciate that. Okay, so we have a new segment for you guys. This is called Search History.
Oh God, I forgot
because we have very curious minds, and it can lead to some funny search inquiries. I don't know actually how to find my search history.
So So, oh well, that would be a good thing to know how to do. You know what?
Is where is my phone? Oh, there it is. You know, I'm gonna switch this phone out for this one. This one's low battery.
Oh God, how do I find my search history? On
Oh, I guess you just go to Google Chrome and no, but that's just where we were, not what we searched.
I use Safari.
I mean, there's the autofill on Google. It would be like you click in it and start to tell you what it. I'm just gonna send.
Oh.
Does anybody out there watching know how to look at our searches? By being curious, it opens you up to so many more authentic and genuine connections and empathy. Absolutely. It's very important in relationships too, I feel. Like, instead of just constantly combating each other, like hearing why somebody's upset, and like sitting in that with them, I think is so important. Being curious about what it was that upset them, and better understanding of people and their experiences without judgment, more fulfilling life. I completely agree. Keeps us being lifelong learners. Let me see.
I found my history, but I have an iPhone.
Oh, you have an iPhone. Boo. Not boo, you have an iPhone, but boo that
you don't have an boo that you don't have an
boo.
iPhone.
I have an iPhone. Okay, I could do this probably. Let's see. Never mind, you little babies. I mean, I could do the.
Oh my God, I already
Oh.
found a couple good ones.
Well, here we go. I just clicked on the Google bar and it gave me some.
If we could do like just a few.
Okay. I mean, I don't really have any funny ones.
You don't? Oh my God, I'm Googling. Maybe it's because I mean, none of these are related to nursing school. I thought I would have some funnier ones related to.
I totally agree with that, Lacey. Says most people are more satisfied in their careers when they have the freedom to be curious, especially us, because we have such like overactive brains and like overthinking everything and looking at it from so many different perspectives. But a lot of times in the workplace, if we express that curiosity, we're seen as like combative or challenging or bad attitude. But if we have the freedom to, be curious, it's a lot more validating and helpful for us. Oh God, my search history is almost useless because it's all synonyms.
It's all synonyms.
Synonym for. Oh boy.
Okay, let me tell you one of mine. Let's
Okay.
see. I've been looking up a lot of horror movies lately because Gray and I are in spooky season. Every year we do our pre-Halloween horror movie nights. I don't know if anyone's into horror. I don't think you are.
And what?
Into horror.
No, I hate
No,
horror.
You don't like horror.
It's the one thing I won't watch.
Yeah, I figured that. So one of the things I just Googled on Friday was, can an IUD cause diarrhea? Because
That's
guys,
amazing.
full disclosure, my IBS has been acting up so bad, and I'm like trying to think like, what the hell? Is it because I'm in school? But I'm like, I was fine like during the first part of school, which was the most stressful part. But then I'm like, does it correlate with when I got my IUD, which was like in the springtime? So I thought I'd just give it a Google. Turns out it sometimes can cause GI symptoms. Just maybe because of like hormonal. I have the Mirena, so I have like the hormonal one. So I don't know, but there's that. So FYI, if you have an IUD, I've been googling lots of stuff about IUDs because it's not. Let's see.
Do you take iron?
No, I don't. But my iron is fine because I just had it checked.
I was having really, really bad GI symptoms. Turns out it was my iron supplement, and now I have to use a patch.
Oh, your iron supplement. Oh, yeah, iron pills can.
Yeah, it was so bad that I had Jarrett call his mom to come over because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to. Because I almost passed out.
Oh, man.
It was awful. It was horrible. That was weird. Anyway. Okay, well, let's see.
Did you find a good one yet?
They're not really funny, but I'll expand on what I was telling you about earlier, which was hypertelorism. So I went down that rabbit hole that the DSM led me down about all the different like physical features and connective tissue issues that are comorbid with ADHD.
Tissue issues.
Associated
Tissue issues. Sorry, I'm crumpling my. I just have to take another.
And so I have. So hypertelorism, it's not just for eyes. There's so many different like measurements. It's very, very intricate. So I have, what is the normal interpupillary distance for adult women?
Definitely weird search.
How do I know if I have wide set eyes? Those are, there's a few more, but it only goes down so far.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, okay, what's your next one?
My next one is how many million sperm in one ejaculation?
How many what sperm?
How many million sperm in one ejaculation?
Oh, interesting. What sparked that?
Well,
nothing you need to tell me.
The reason I Googled that, yes, I would like to explain why I was Googling that, because we were talking to Danica, Gray and I. This is like family dinner table conversation at my house where we were like, do you realize that if a different sperm, other than you, Danica, other than the sperm that made it to my egg, if one sperm out of all those sperms had been like a millisecond faster, you would be a totally different person. And we were like trying to get her to trip out on that. And then I was like,
she's like, that so.
And Gray and I were like, Gray said something like billions of sperm. And I'm like, I don't know if there's billions of sperm in one single go. And so I had to Google it because I was curious about what the actual number. If you're curious.
Same, Lacey. I can't do it. I've got a lot of that like relational empathy of like somebody stubs their toe. I feel like I stubbed my toe.
Oh, for horror movies?
Yeah.
40 million to 1.2 billion. So.
Oh, all right.
Cells.
So both of you are right.
Yeah. So. Dan, I felt a little awkward that we were talking. He was like, "Can we stop talking about this now? Stop talking about ejaculates."
Okay, so my other one is, can I collect an application fee for something that doesn't exist yet? And that, of course, was about my homestead commune, because I do want to get it started. I want to get the ball rolling. I want to announce it on social media and get applicants going. Because I'd like to start vetting people and getting the ball rolling, but I don't know. I haven't talked to a lawyer yet about the whole business plan, so I don't know what is legal and what would get me in trouble. Yeah, so mine's boring.
Did you find out?
Yes, you can, but if you're a landlord accepting applications, you can't accept application fees when there's no vacancy. So that sounds like kind of a gray area for me because I don't know if I would be considered a landlord. I could possibly be considered a landlord, and you could theoretically say that I don't have vacancies because I don't have any structures yet. But I do have vacancies because I am going to choose people. So I don't know. It sounds like a gray area right now.
So who knows? Question mark.
Yeah, so I didn't get a definitive answer.
All right, I have a few. I can just name them off real quick.
Okay.
Who invented kissing? Because
I know that one.
yeah, well, I found the answer.
Let's compare notes.
Well, I found what is hypothesized to be the answer. It's
Yeah.
something like Mesopotamians. Or
Okay,
something.
well, what I saw on, I think it was Explained. Have you seen that series? They just pick a random topic every episode and go do a deep dive. It was kissing and how it originated when we were monkeys, because we would feed each other food. It was a caretaking thing
Okay.
of like making sure and that makes sense because Seppi tries to feed me when he's being when he's all like feeling Twitter-pated.
He's so cute.
Because it's part of the mating
Yeah,
thing is
I love
they
that.
feed each other. It's a caretaking, like making sure that you're. Yeah.
I mean, who knows? There's a lot of different. I think,
What was the answer you found? Oh, you said Mesopotamia.
like Mesopotamia or something like way long ago. There's like cave paintings that depict kissing, and so.
Oh, so they just tracked down the first
Yeah.
evidence that it existed.
Humans were
Yeah.
doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, because Gray and I were. I mean, I
They
don't
didn't tell you
remember
the
how-
purpose.
No, I don't think it was
Okay.
the purpose. We're just like kissing's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Think about it, like.
Yeah,
Weird.
It is.
Kissing. Good primer for oily face, because my face
Mm.
has been so freaking oily lately. It probably is right now because I haven't patted it down in like a few hours. I'm just like, you could fry food on my face right now. I don't know what's
Is that from
happening.
the IUD, you think? That's a hormonal thing, right?
It's gotta be. I've always had oily skin, but it's been next level. It has to be hormonal. I don't know. Do sound waves travel in a vacuum? Which I knew the answer to that, but I was trying to find information for today. There's a lot.
They do, right? Because they travel through space.
They don't actually. No, there's no sound in space.
What? I
Yeah.
thought we measured sound waves in space, and that's how we knew about certain explosions and stuff that happened. Maybe, I guess there's other things we're measuring.
Maybe.
I really thought it was sound.
There's a lot of Googling a lot of lab values. What's the normal range for alkaline phosphatase? What is the normal range for this lab or that lab? I don't know if I have any more like fun ones.
Yeah, all my stuff is like random fruit trees and what kind of growing conditions they need and how germination time of whatever seed I planted.
Oh, I was Googling when is the re-release of Interstellar, for those of you who are into space and who liked that movie. They're going to re-release it in theaters in December. I will be there because I freaking loved that movie and I didn't get to see it in the theater. I was Googling Kevin Bacon for some reason. Oh, because we watched Tremors recently, if you remember that movie. You never seen Tremors where like the big worms come up out of the ground and people with Kevin Bacon? Yeah. Interdigital furunculosis, which is what my foster bulldog has on his feet.
Aww.
Yeah, he gets little blisters between his toes.
Aww.
Googling different types of mushrooms, different types of psychedelic mushrooms.
I look at my open tabs, but I'm a little afraid something's going to come up that's not safe for work.
That's what we're looking for. Look at my ejaculate one. What causes low lymphocytes? I'm almost at the end of my search history. Not very many. When I was searching for them for different.
I was searching a lot for what happened to the people in Alaskan Bush people because it's been 2 years and they have such they've been through such adversity that a lot of us does so and so still live on the ranch? Do they still live together? Did so and so go to Alaska?
Oh, this afternoon I googled how do I access my search history on Safari.
It worked.
All right. Well, that's pretty much all I got. Got any more fun ones?
Just synonyms.
Just synonyms. Just
So many synonyms. I should just
Synonyms.
get like a synonym app or something.
Just get the thesaurus, the Webster's Thesaurus app. It's a good one because you can do synonyms on them.
Yeah, I don't know how to see further back.
Oh yeah, it's not really running you over very far, is it?
What if I just type in a letter? Average age of diagnosis in ADHD.
What's wrong with it?
2022. Oh, Piper Grant. Yeah, mine are boring.
You're so
I've
business
just
on your
been-
phone.
I know. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to get this homestead thing together. So I'm just. And there was a lot of searching for parabolic solar trough because I've been trying to make I want to make a big solar panel that just works off the reflection of the sun.
Oh my god.
Try to make that like a human water heater and stuff.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, you're googling much
It
more
actually
stuff
looks
than I
really
am.
easy.
I feel like you're doing more in the world than me, but it's fine.
Heather says my face is so oily too. I didn't like that movie.
No, love Interstellar. Oh, break my heart. It's not for everyone, but if you
Lacey started using my ChatGPT as Google. I don't think ChatGPT is factually accurate, is it? I don't think it's reliable. Unless maybe you have the premium. I've heard that the premium is, but the one with the big one. Oh, that is not. Oh,
Tremors.
yeah, not Interstellar. Yeah, Tremors.
It's an old movie. It came out in '88, I think.
Oh, yeah. I all the way up until almost always. I didn't watch movies unless they were comedy.
Gotcha.
Um,
I've always been a scary. I was only 9 when that movie came out. I remember seeing it. I like scary movies. I always have.
I watched a lot of creepy movies in the 80s that creeped me out, but I watched them anyway. Like The Return to Oz.
Oh,
Remember that? Did you guys see that? So weird. So weird and creepy, but I loved it.
Is weird and creepy for sure.
Even like the Never-Ending Story is pretty creepy.
Yeah, there was a
Like
lot
the
of
rock
stuff in
eater
the
and
80s.
the-
Yeah, I loved that movie.
Oh, it's
Such
one of
a
my
good movie.
favorites, but it was weird.
It was weird, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Like The Dark Crystal. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff. Okay, so moving on.
Moving on. Next.
Oh, we have giveaways. Are we the giveaways? Oh, no, hold on. So we have sensory violations. Okay, we have another new segment.
Another new segment. Oh my god.
Which is sensory violations. These are just things that have assaulted our senses that we would like to do something about but can't.
Yeah.
You go to jail. You go to sensory jail. That's what you do. We are the sensory police, and if you do these things, you go to sensory jail.
Yeah.
My first one is those pest repelling devices. Now, the household ones have not been a problem. And I think I've told this story on this show before, but I went to China once, and I took a tour of a chocolate factory, and as we were walking from one building to the next, I was walking in this group, right? Maybe like 15, 20 people. As we were walking, all of a sudden, I just hear, it's like the sound when the TV goes on, but also someone's jackhammering your eardrum. Like it's like this on your eardrum plus that high pitched. And it sent my entire nervous system in full panic. It was, oh my God, my brain is exploding. Someone help me immediately. And I had no idea what it was. And I'm looking at everybody else. I'm like, oh my God, what is that? Oh my, what is that? And they're looking at me like, what's happening to you? What's going on? Like, none of them heard it.
Oh, that's such a neurodivergent experience.
And on the way back, it happened again. And I was like, oh my God, what is that? How do you guys not hear that? And they figured out that both times I was walking past one of the entrances where they have those little things emitting, because it's a food factory, so they've got to repel rodents and birdies, apparently.
It does it with sound?
Yeah.
It's giving me the look. I have goosebumps listening to you. I'm like, that's giving me, I don't like the...
Oh, it's horrible.
The way you describe that noise, it's very, I know that feeling. It's very visceral. Blech.
Yeah.
Okay. My first one is air fresheners. Any kind of air freshener. The plug-in ones, when you go into someone's house, and I swear they probably have one of those plug-ins in every single outlet in their goddamn house, and I'm just like, I have such a hard time with smells and fragrances like that. Car air fresheners are the worst.
Yes.
I don't get car sick, but if I'm riding in a car with a strong air freshener, I'll start to feel like car sick, because I'm just like, this is too much. It's overload for me. And I like a nice, yummy smelling candle. I will burn a candle in my home for as long as it takes to get like a little nice aroma going, but then it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, I gotta blow up.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do have one particular friend whose house I go over to, and she loves to burn a lot of candles, and it's lovely when you first walk in. It's like, and then I'm there for about 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh my God. It's like I can smell all these candles. It starts to feel like panicky and suffocating, where I'm like, I can't get it. Yeah. So
for sure. I suffer from the same thing. In fact, I have the plugins, but the problem is, like, even on the I put it on the lowest setting and I plug it in, and after 5 minutes, I'm like, how is this the lowest setting? Yeah. This feels like the highest setting.
Who's using the highest setting?
So sometimes I'll just like take it out and just set it on and I'll be like, it just being there and not plugged in is enough. Or like, with candles, I can only handle candles that have like a mild edible scent, like coconut, vanilla, cranberry, pumpkin, that kind of thing. But anything that's like floral or like fresh or pine or something like that, it just, I can't do it. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, that's rough.
Okay. Hold on. Heather says it scared me when I was about the same age. Tremors did. Air fresheners here too, sensory overload. Yeah. First for me was the sound of cardboard scratching together and the feeling of extension cords. Cardboard scratching together, I can imagine.
The feeling of extension cords. I'm not sure what that means.
Is it the double wire thing? Extension cord. Or are you talking about the big orange ones? Because the little ones, the only thing I can think of that's different about those is that it's like a double. You mean like a power strip? Or do you mean like, you have to elaborate, Lacey, because I don't get that one. What is it about extension cords? Yeah, that's funny. There's just can't do fluorescence either. Yeah. Okay, this one I thought of because it's been a struggle this week. Is loud sneezers. Straight to jail. If you're a loud sneezer, you go to jail. And here's why. I was a loud sneezer, and I insisted that that's just how I sneeze, and I can't help it. But then I was in a situation like on set where if you sneeze, they have to like cut, and you're the enemy, and now everybody hates you because you just cost them thousands of dollars. And I had to learn how to sneeze quietly, and it's possible. So if you're still sneezing like, "Achoo!" Stop it. Stop it.
I'm guilty. My family calls it mom sneezes because I'll be like, like all loud. But
Like Sneezer from Tiny Toons.
I do acknowledge, I don't know that.
He's like this little tiny mouse.
It's my tremors versus your Tiny Toons.
Choo! And then he just like everything explodes.
Yes, but mine is pretty high pitched and scream. It almost sounds like a scream sneeze. A squeeze. But I do acknowledge that I have the ability to sneeze more quiet than that. I'm not in denial about that at all. But the loud sneeze is so satisfying.
It is. I get it.
It's so good. But I really only do it at home. And my family just has to deal with it. Sorry, guys. But sometimes Gray will be like, that was a lot. That was excessive. And I'm like, sorry, it felt great.
There's something apparently that Jared is allergic to in our bedroom right now.
Oh, no.
And so all night, like every 30 minutes, I am awoken from a deep slumber by a scream in my ear.
Is he a squeezer too?
Yeah.
It's so good. It's great.
Okay. That's it.
Oh, I didn't do my second one.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
My second one is wind. I was just talking about this with somebody the other day because I was describing, because I grew up in Washington State and on an island specifically, and it's very windy there. And we just got talking about weather and stuff, and I'm like, wind is the most annoying. It makes me feel out of control. Like things are blowing, my hood is blowing, my jacket's blowing, my hair is in my face, and I can't get it out. My face is oily and it's sticking to it, and it's in my eyelashes. And
I feel like if you have long hair and anything on your lips, that's a recipe for disaster with wind. Because you're going to get hair in your chapstick, and it's going to.
And I also don't like the feeling of wind blowing on me, even artificial wind, like fans. Like we have a bunch of fans in our house right now because it got hot, really hot over the summer. And even in the summer when it was so hot in our house and it's hot, a fan blowing on me was like, I just don't like the way it feels.
Yeah.
I don't like the way moving air feels against my skin.
I get you. It's one of those things that I have PDA with, where if it's something that I seek out, then it's great because I'm hot and I need it or whatever. But if it's thrust upon me, full meltdown.
Yeah.
The gym is the worst. I hate going to the gym because the gym already is a sensory trigger for me. I'm already on the verge of meltdown when I step into the gym. So then, like, if I'm all grumpy and in a bad mood and suddenly I feel the fan on me when
Yeah, true. If I'm seeking out a fan, like if it's hot and I turn on the AC full crank in my car and it's blowing on me because I'm just like dying of sweat, that's great. But then it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm cooled down and I'm just gonna move the air vents so they're not blowing directly on me, right? Because I'm like, okay, I'm over it now. Yeah, if it's under my control, it's a lot better. But just when
also anything, if it's hot air being blown in my face, I will have a panic attack. In any situation.
I love
even if
air.
I'm freezing cold, blow the air down here, not here, or I will panic.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that it?
Same with fans. I feel phantom wind of fans. My mom is a loud yawner. Wait, hold on.
I'm sometimes a loud yawner too.
I'm afraid I'm kind of a loud sneezer too, and I don't like them either. But like she said, it's very satisfying. All of them. Just the feeling of it running through my hands when I'm wrapping it up. Wow. I can't think of what's different about the extension cord than a regular cord. My mom is a loud yawner. She like opera sings as she's yawning. Oh, I do that. Yeah, I absolutely do that. Well, Jarrett and I both do that too. We will yawn or stretch and yawn like obnoxiously loud because we're just like
like you're a bear coming out of hibernation. A loud yawn and stretch or groan and stretch feels so good in the morning.
I mean, your voice box is a muscle. Your voice box is a muscle, so you're probably just stretching another muscle while you stretch.
It's like a good yoga.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, wind here too, especially so much. Same with fans. After a while, I feel phantom wind of fan. Yeah. Yes, I hate fans. It's for this exact reason. My husband thinks it's so weird. I thought it was me. Any of the senses can feel assaulting. I'm a quiet yawning. Yes, very satisfying to sneeze loud.
Oh, I love a loud sneeze. It's like one of the best things. It's kind of like equivalent to something else that I won't mention.
I feel like thank you because we're on TikTok.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was given warning, I would be okay with it. Like, if you're gonna run the blender, say loud noise, and then I can go like this, and I'm not mad at you for using the blender.
True.
But if I'm just doing my thing and suddenly you sneeze in my ear, that's a problem. But if you're like, sneeze, hold on. If I get warning,
there's usually not that much build up to a sneeze, but we're getting weird. We're getting loopy now. We've been recording for a lot of hours.
A little over what we intended. All right, my friends.
I'm going to the movies tonight, so I gotta go soon. We're gonna go see Speak No Evil.
Oh.
It's a new scary movie.
Excuse me, sir.
He says, I want some attention. Do you want to go to the movies? Is that what you're trying to say?
Oh, my baby.
Aw, let's get him in the shot. You can help us say goodbye to our friends. You sweet boy. Hi, Bubba.
Censoring him on TikTok. He's so cute. He's a little baby.
He's so cute.
He's just such a sweet boy.
He is a very
It's his sweetness that makes him so cute.
He is a very sweet boy. He just wants love. He just wants love.
Yeah.
Yes. The other one wants to bite my face off, and you want love. So it's a balance. It's
She's
a
a
good
bit of a sass
spectrum.
monster.
She is. She legit scares me, even though she's not really scary. Yeah, she's doing a good job. All right, everyone.
All right, my loves. Okay, wait. We got to do giveaways because we haven't
shoot.
done any of this episode.
Does anyone want the stim toy? I was playing with the stim toy the whole time, and it saved my attention span when we were doing that interview. Not that she wasn't interesting.
It's just hard to sit still.
I loved her, but sitting still for a long time is not, unless I'm doing something with my hands. It's hard.
Okay, so what do you guys want? We have fidgets. We have Stimags fidgets.
That's a
little
magnetized. It's really fun.
They're kind
I
of
love it a lot.
clicky and
Yeah, it's really good.
fun to do shapes.
There's those.
We have my walnut snacks that are coated in with different flavors, but there's no actual flavorings. It's all natural stuff. And you get, if you want walnut snacks, you also get an appropriate tote. It says put on that side. And then I have these cool rainbow things this powder that turns your campfire rainbow colors. The flames turn rainbow colors. You like that? We're gonna do that tonight, huh, baby? I'm gonna fire my puzzle piece.
Ooh, fun. You're gonna make a rainbow. I like it.
And rainbow with polka dots. And then we have stickers that are mostly like motivational positivity. There's also some kind of sassy ones, empowering ones. So what do you guys want?
What you want?
Those things.
Dogs are my favorite thing ever. Cute
You
baby.
can't have my doggy.
Dogs are my favorite thing ever too.
This doggy is my favorite. No, he's not a doggy. He's a pizza. He's a little fuzzy pizza.
I feel really about my babies too.
Nice, nice hole.
We love our doggies, don't we?
I'll take stickers this time, sassy ones. Okay, Heather.
We want to give away. I think we're just giving.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of viewers right now, so we'll just give you what you want. Let's see. Today was a good day. Ooh,
I kept doing this with the stim mag where I put it.
you threw that for nothing.
I put it in a shape like this. Oh wait, no, I can't do that.
Self-love is not selfish. Life is better when you're laughing.
Oh, magnets. Ugh. I do that. I was going like this. But you can do all kinds of configurations with this guy.
Nice animals.
I'll come over here.
Thriving and thriving. Believe in your future self. None of these are sassy yet. Hold on. Whoop. Some of these are trying to be empowering, but they're a little ableist. Like, don't wish for it, work for it. I'm like, maybe not my audience. I did not come this far to only come this far. Be you, do you, for you. That middle one, I can't help but be avoid that. Do you. Mags, please, whichever one you can look at. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so if you want any of this, what you have to do is you just have to DM me your shipping address and what it was that you want, because I won't remember. Whether that's sassy stickers or don't trade your authenticity for approval. Or the walnut snacks or whatever. Just make sure you tell me via DM private message. Okay?
All right.
All right, my lovies.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Thanks for tuning in. Remember to send us we do a segment called Look What I Can Do, where we want to showcase all of the cool things that our people can do, whatever your talent is, if it's art, if it's dance, if it's, I don't know, can you beatbox? I don't care.
Maybe you have 2 different color eyes or something. I don't know.
It can be something, it can be something about you, it can be something you do.
Anything cool that you want to show off.
Yeah. So,
so send us an email if you want to be a part of that segment. Also, pep talks. We also do a pep talk segment. We did one today where if you just have something that's like giving you anxiety or you don't have the courage to do it, maybe you want to, color your hair crazy color, you're nervous, or maybe you don't know how to talk to your doctor about ADHD. I don't know. Whatever we can boost your confidence to make sure that you feel good doing this thing. So that's how you can contribute.
And also, if there are any guest recommendations you guys have, anybody who you'd like to see on the podcast or anything you would like us to talk about on our main topic, we're always open to suggestions on what people want to hear.
Absolutely.
So email us, DM us, follow on Keeping It Weird socials.
Yes, the more people who follow us on our Keeping It Weird accounts, the more likely we are to go live on those accounts. Because right now we don't have enough followers to go live. So we're just going live on my accounts. We go live usually on a Saturday once a month for the show tapings. Personally, I promised myself that I would get on a regular live schedule soon. I haven't done that yet, so I apologize.
It'll be better.
Once I finish my book, I will.
Once I'm out of school, come December, we will be able to have a much more consistent schedule then too.
Yeah.
My schedule's been kind of mucking us up a little bit lately.
Yeah. Heather, just remind me in DMs that you like the approval one, okay? All right, my loves. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining us and being weird with us again. We love you so much. That's it. Achoo! Achoo!
Bye. Bye. All right. Oh God.
Oh, that's good. I think I'll boost it a little bit. Oh, my brain is very tired today.
Yeah, me too.
Finish my book, and when I do that, I get accidentally sleep deprived because stimulant keeps me awake, and then I don't get deep sleep. And then because I take a stimulant in the morning, I don't realize that I'm tired.
Yeah.